What? That's the one we want.
Welcome to Talk of the Tavern. A little about us, we're your at-home interactive weekly geek con. A little about us, with sarcasm and interactive like at GeekCon. We're adults talking about adult topics and using adult language.
I don't know why we let
laugh and make jokes about almost everything. We don't intend to upset, but some folks have their feelings hurt easily. This is all done in humor in the style of the great offenders such as George Carlin, Red Fox, Lenny Bruce, Richard Pryor, Robin Williams, Wanda Sykes, Sam Kinison, George Lopez, Lisa Lampanelli, Chris Rock, and others. So grab your vice of choice, sit back, relax, and get ready to enjoy yourself in the company of great people, hot toddies, and guests alike, because here we come.
Now, that long day behind you, good times lie ahead. With company worth keeping, that'll bash a smile on your head. Come on in, the door's open, you'll find just the finest folks here. Pull up a chair, grab a drink, and lend our stories your ear. Cause we're the talk of the tavern. Here you're always welcome. The talk of the tavern. Promising beer and bed love. The talk of the tavern. Music, medicine, then some. The talk of the tavern. The song's over. Here we come.
And welcome to Talk of the Tavern, July 4th, and it's a Wednesday. I am Travis, I am the host, and today my vices are a half-smoked cigar, a hat, and a bottle opener. No, I'm kidding.
Yay.
I've got more. I have a Stone Hop revolver. I felt like it, because of the date and the celebration today, I felt like beer was appropriate. It'd be non-American to not have beer. So, and I got revolver, because that's very American. Plus I have water, and it's smart water because after I drank it, I refilled it with tap water. And then I have coffee, and I do have another cigar, and I have a little Kraken. Just saying.
You need to put that closer to the camera?
If you really want me to, theirs or
Because
yours?
the people can't see it?
I can show you guys better.
Oh, not mine.
Yeah, that one better. Now, let me introduce my lovely co-host, who I'm still working out these other things here. Oh, thanks for the host. Andrea, what's your vices? You know your head is going off out of the...
You want me to fix the camera?
I don't know. Boobs or head? Which do we want to see? I know the right answer, but I don't know the right answer.
How about that?
Thank you, Max.
Hey, John.
Made those. You still have like a lobotomy. Just.
Gosh.
I mean, I love what I'm seeing. Oh, well, that's much better. I'm happy now.
America. Oh my God, that's really too low. I don't know what to do.
You know, we have a guest we have introduced sometime today.
That's
sorry.
There we go.
I think.
Now we can see
Is that
over
better?
your head. Yes. Yes.
Oh my God.
It's like you were going off the top of the screen, Tara's ducking below it, and I'm just all over.
We're hiding like ninjas. See? It's Captain America.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I got one of her. I got a patriotic glass too.
I'm patriotic. I'm wearing red, white, and blue. And I have tea out of my Captain America. And Dunkin' Donuts coffee in a Starbucks reusable cup. Because why the hell not? And our guest today is Tara Moeller. And she is an awesome author. And creating a... What the hell?
I don't know. It's not making the PP sound because there's too much head.
Creating a fairy anthology, which is why we're here to talk.
She is.
Hi, Tara.
Hi.
What's your vices today?
Coffee in my mustache mug.
Very nice. Very nice. I noticed you.
Because I have to shave mine off, so.
Because of regulations at work.
No, because it's irritating. I only get little bits down over here.
See, that's why I keep mine, so people think it's the mustache that's irritating instead of me. Yeah, they're like, oh, it must be the mustache that's irritating. Yeah, that's right. Oh, now I've got a whole nother playlist set up, so give me a second. I'm going to set up this playlist. Oh, if you're talking, you could talk more, though.
I'm going to talk. Hey, John, when I was at your shop the other day, I forgot. I have a bunch of little coolers that we're not going to use anymore. Could you use them? So if you can use coolers, let me know, and when I go back down there, I'll drop them off.
She'll bring them to you. It's cool.
Mhm.
He said
Okay,
sure.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, and
I forgot.
yeah, they're not all teeny coolers either. They're pretty much medium size. You know that one.
They're not the huge roller ones, but they're not.
Right. Unless Tara needs them, she could maybe get here first. I don't know. Go.
Well, there's
I
three
have-
of them.
I already have coolers.
Yeah, it's
We get hurricanes down here, and we went out after the first hurricane in Norfolk, and we bought like the 7-day everything stays frozen coolers.
oh nice.
Gotcha.
So there still works. So we're pretty good in the cooler department.
This is just one of those things. You collect coolers over time, and we
Yep.
have like 5 of them, and we're using the soft-sided ones more than the hard-sided ones. And these
And
are
we combine
those,
our stuff. We have too many.
right. And the big one we have is what we take when we go camping or to a con and bring
Right.
food.
Mhm.
So the medium one never gets used anymore. Not since soft-sided coolers came out, and we're like, let's get rid of that one. And then the one you could put a gallon of water in or whatever, and you got the little spout
Right.
and pour it. We never
Yep.
use that.
We got one of those.
So yeah, we had a handful of them that were.
Yeah, because we've got the 3 7-day, which are the big coolers. We've got 2 of those water type coolers. We've got the little lunch bag coolers. We've got. We've inherited coolers as well.
You can open a store.
So almost.
This is a 7.7% alcohol volume, and it's got a little story on the back. The aim of
Oh, read us a story.
fully loaded with Equinaut. What the hell is Equinaut?
I don't know, but it's fully loaded.
It is. It's. Hold on, let me try to. There we go. Maybe that's better. Yeah, I think it's EKUANOT.
And
I'm gonna have to Google it. But anyhow, the aim of this experimental hop-centric series is to demonstrate just how dramatically a single hop can impact a beer. It's like being attacked by the bunny rabbit.
It's a bunny.
We're going to periodically fire off a variety of single-hopped variations of this IPA for some good brewing fun. Hee-haw, hold my beer. Empty the bright tank with one. Reload it with another batch, rinse, reload, repeat. Thank God they said rinse. Otherwise, it's like McDonald's shake machine. Just keep pouring stuff in there.
yep.
The bugs are protein. It's okay.
Oh, no.
Paranoid.
Nay.
What's that?
You know what? I got some good news. I have
Tuesday
over
bunny?
80 followers on my channel now.
Oh, nice.
All right.
Nice.
People like me. Well,
We-
maybe they'll watch tonight.
We should celebrate with a game tonight.
Yeah, we should. Oh, also, before we start, where's my cards? Hold on. Oh my goodness. Before we start,
Oh, a toast. Hey, here's to the magic, in Faeries or otherwise, that just keeps creating as you keep getting older.
and glitter. Here,
Oh,
here.
I guess I gotta turn Captain America to the screen. Merca.
Mm.
I'm picking his nose. Okay, hold on. Okay. Everybody, go down. Just below my head. And there's a share button to the right-hand side of the screen. Click that. Let your friends know that if they're not out getting liquored up and about to blow their fingers off with fireworks and scare all the poor animals and veterans in the damn neighborhood, come join us and hang out and have a good time.
Yeah,
That
they
is
do that
something-
later in the day.
It's...
No, they've already let stuff go off in my
Well,
neighborhood
here
today.
we just have random
Oh.
rednecks shooting off guns anyway, so it doesn't matter what day of the year it is. But
Not here.
it's... I don't know how I feel about the veteran... No, I know how I feel. Okay, let me state the case here first. Okay, so we grew up with fireworks going off at all, holidays and whatnot, and especially 4th of July, those maximum. And, of course, our animals are terrified. They run under the beds, etc., etc. You go, oh, that's so cute, poor Fluffy. But now we have come to realize a lot of our military that are returning from wartime, and indubitably this has happened since gunpowder came into effect.
Mhm.
They have shell shock, which is now called PTSD. Basically, loud, sudden noises surprise them, sometimes in fear, sometimes in anger, sometimes various emotional reactions. Even if they know it's coming, some folks are still very affected by this. So I'm torn with how do we handle that? Is there a better way to handle? I mean, we could say just fire them off at the parks, and everybody could bring their own, but then you have people around. You can't fire them from your. I don't know the good answer for this one.
Know your neighbor.
Know your neighbor.
Know your neighbor.
That's a novel idea.
Hey, there's 2 veterans in my household, myself and my husband, and the guy that lives behind us, he's a veteran. Couple other folks up the street from us, they're veterans. And so we had one gentleman in our neighborhood who he went all out every year, had his own little fireworks show almost. But we knew he would do it, kept our animals in, and I think anybody who, veteran-wise, would be disturbed, they didn't hang around the neighborhood because we knew it was going on. And I think that's the big thing is if you're a veteran and you have, I know veterans with PTSD. I don't have it, my husband doesn't, but I know veterans who do.
Right.
And for the most part, they need to know it's coming. If you're planning on having a big, setting off a bunch of fireworks for your grandkids in your backyard, and you know your neighbors, tell them so that they're prepared, and then they can either, say, hey, I'm going to, I'll be out of town. I'm going to get, I'm not going to be around. Or at least prepare, the neighbors so if they start hearing something funky next door after they do that they can, take an appropriate action.
I want to go out on a limb here and say if you are somebody with that type of PTSD, and keep in mind, not all PTSD affects them that way, affects a person that way. Sometimes it's social anxiety, sometimes there's huge various, anything that psychological, anyhow. If you're a veteran and you know you have a problem with loud noises, do yourself a favor and get some noise canceling headphones and then some earbuds with your favorite music. And go watch something. Go read a book. Go somewhere where even in your own house you know you're not going to have a problem. Now this is also considerate of all the other people who may not be considerate of you. But also if 1 out of 100 people or 1,000 people have this issue, that is the easier fix, to take care of them and give them a safe place as opposed to make everybody quit what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, there we go. Well addressed. Good job, Tara.
Thank you.
Little bit of courtesy, people. Don't be a dick.
On both sides. On both sides.
Oh, yeah.
On both sides, yeah.
Yeah, and it makes a world of difference. And communication, as Tara said. Know your neighbors. And oh, man.
Because I think sometimes that'll take care of it. If you know that you have a neighbor with an issue, I think you're less likely to just do it whenever. I think you're more likely to say, hey, to do it on the 4th, and let your neighbor know what you're doing. Because I think sometimes it's knowing, it's the unexpectedness for that person with PTSD.
Right.
I also want to throw out there, it's not just veterans or police officers with PTSD. There are different forms. So a lot of times, people who have PTSD, they're in therapy. They are developing ways to mitigate their response to what will trigger the trauma for them. And so by letting them know, and we're all living in a community, we all have to kind of get together on this. By letting them know, that allows them to prepare. Right. However it is, whether it's, hey, I'm going to go stay at a friend's house where out in the middle of nowhere on a lake where nobody's going to do anything, or if they do, and I have an issue, I'm not going to hurt anybody else, or like you said, hey, the noise canceling headphones, and watching something innocuous that's going to help cancel, something very calming on,
not
don't watch a war movie.
Well, you know what though? Actually, with a war
But
movie, because of the predictability, perhaps that is okay. And also, there's a happy ending or whatever.
sometimes.
So it depends on the person. They have to know themselves to. But yeah,
Yes.
something that breaks you away from the world outside. Which don't we all need that? Okay. So that's our 4th of July statement is, talk to each other, people. Other than that, have a good time, and if you do something stupid, make sure you video that shit so we can mock your stupid ass later.
Yep.
Yeah.
As long as nobody's hurt, you know.
Actually, that's something I was thinking about where I watch these videos and they're like, oh, it's hilarious. And you go, oh, I love a hilarious video. Is it going to be cute kittens? People, doing.
Yeah.
And then they're falling off railings and hitting themselves or falling down head first into a wall.
Yeah.
You're like, that is not funny. This is why I hated America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yes.
30% of the videos were injury. And even if the person
And
gets
about
up
the third season, the first couple of seasons were cute.
They were.
And then it all became getting their balls hit, and that's not funny.
No, it's
we need cute kittens, people.
Yeah.
Cute kittens.
We need the cute kitten being funny and attacking the dog, and the dog being scared. Come on.
And when we have ones like, oh, they put the cucumber by him and the cat jumps 3 feet in the air. Okay, yeah, it's funny one time. It's not funny 17 times. And for people that are like, oh, that's abusive to animals, the cat was surprised by something foreign within its space. You could have put a McDonald's wrapper there.
That'd make me jump.
To do it multiple times with one animal, you're a dick.
Yep.
But to do it one time and get it on film, calm your tits. It's okay. And people are douchebags anyway. Get over it.
What would be much funnier now is do that and your cat attacks and eats the freaking cucumber. But
yeah. Or you can do it with, bovines and they just have sex with it. That's hilarious. I love those videos. Welcome to Talk of the Tavern. Hold on, I'm sharing the channel so we can get more.
Wow.
Come join us for antics and shenanigans.
Cucumbers and cows.
As we discuss cucumbers, cows, fairy stories, and fun with Tara Moeller. Sorry.
Spelled the same.
Yeah, I've got a history of Taras in my past. That's why every once in a while I'll slip up. So
It's okay.
It's a lesson to be learned for other people where they're like, you used the wrong term. It's okay. Happens to me. Tara versus Tara.
Yep.
So.
Where I work, there's people who are still confused because some people call me Tara, some people call me Tara, and they come in and says, well, which is? And I said, well, it's Tara. I said, but I'm not going to correct you.
Why bother?
Because, it's work. I mean, if you're my best friend and you call me by the wrong name, I'm going to slap you up the side of the head.
Well, then they're probably giggling and running away anyway because they did it on purpose.
Well, yeah. So, I had some of my family from Massachusetts. I was Tyra. So, you learn for a while.
They're like adding letters and shit now.
So, well, no, it was how they pronounced Tara. They kind of,
don't you know?
Massachusetts accent or whatever, it come out Tyra, and then some of them thought my name was Tyra. So
it's a Canadian thing.
Can you guys hear the
no,
music?
That's Massachusetts.
No.
Thing. Sort of. Every so often there's this
right now
music.
It's the Lilac Fairy by Tchaikovsky. And it's
okay.
Lovely. I could turn it up a little if you think I should.
Are you going to sing?
Probably not to a ballet.
Oh.
I might start doing pirouettes.
Oh, turn it up.
Okay.
They're lousy pirouettes.
It doesn't matter. We've got a camera. Somebody's getting hurt.
$10,000
in Bitcoin. Anyhow. Let's see. I think we're done. Did we cover? We covered our vices. I poured a beer. By the way, this beer, Tara, are you a beer drinker?
Usually cider, but I will drink beer.
Does it taste like revolvers?
No,
I hope
no.
not.
It's. Do you know how very IPAs, which tend to be a little hoppy, they almost have a citrus, but then they have this like cardboard bland aftertaste. This is
Yeah.
skunky kind of aftertaste. This is why I
Yep.
don't like them. This one has all that, but it's oddly blended where I'm like, it's not too bad. It's not really
Okay.
bad. I didn't realize when I bought this, I went, oh, look, a decent beer with a variety of different things that I could try. I didn't realize
Right.
they were all hoppy IPAs, except for like one. I prefer stouts and lagers and whatnot. But yeah, not too bad. I'm happy to say because there's nothing like having 12 beers in your fridge and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to drink any of them. When do I have people coming
Yeah.
over?
Yeah.
Now, we've given everybody 20 minutes to jump in and join us, so they're either here or they're not. I did share to... See, now the music's really loud. Is it loud for you?
It is, because they're singing. It looks like we've gotten a few more people in, so hi everybody.
I'm turning it back down. Hold on.
Unless you sing to it.
You know, if I know the words, I'll start singing, so be careful there.
I'm
You
just
don't
gonna
have
leave
to
it
know
at
the
that.
words.
Worst comes worst, when we're silent, it'll be there to fill in that gap.
There we go.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
worry about the rest of it. And I'm just going to... It's on random. It can go through. Okay, so... I'm just going to give the intro here of what we're talking about and what we're doing.
Okay.
Last year, Tara said, "Hey, we all go to MarsCon. Let's do an anthology." Because by us, I mean kind of a group of writing people or friends of writers. There we go. Oh, well done, Tara, having that right on hand. Good job. You know, I need to put one of those.
I'm learning. I'm learning.
I can't get to mine. The cat's sleeping on the box. So sorry, but I have all my other books. I finally, after how many years of doing the show, I decided to keep the books next to where I film video.
Kind of.
Kind of, yeah. Most of them. I still have to get more. So last year, Tara said, let's go ahead and do an anthology. Or somebody else might have said it. I don't actually remember who came up with the concept.
We'll say Tara did it.
Well, Tara was in charge, so I am willing to give the credit even if it's wrong, because she did the work.
She did a lot of work.
So, and we all went, yeah, great idea, let's do that. And we did it, and it was released at MarsCon this year, past January, and it did great. Lots of interest, lots of people came around. There were awesome gift bags, which I don't think you should do this year because it's that much more work for you.
Yeah, I don't think we're doing the gift
Well,
bags
I don't think
this
the
year.
gift bags, I think either the book brought them in or it didn't. I don't think
Well,
the gift
yeah.
bags made anybody buy a book.
Correct.
What were you going to say, Andrea?
I was gonna say if you do one for the auction.
That's different.
That's different, yeah. And I will do something that includes the book for the auction, so there'll be a book.
You know what?
And
Oh, and
goodie
maybe
bags.
You could do a
if
raffle.
you want to do an extra. Oh yeah. I was gonna say if you want to do an extra one for the costume contest.
Make three.
Okay.
Make 3 gift bags. One goes in the auction, one goes in the costume contest prizes, and the third one goes on the table. Everybody who buys a book of any type gets to enter in the raffle. And there you go.
Yeah.
Of any type. That's a good idea.
Yeah. That way, any book on the
and
table
if-
sells.
That way, if they buy any of your stuff.
The one on the table will not include the auction, and for the costume contest will probably include a copy of the book. The one on the table will not, because then nobody's going to want to buy
Don't
the book
buy it.
from me.
Don't tell them what's in the gift bag.
Okay, everybody listening that's going to be at MarsCon, just ignore what I just said. You don't know what's in it.
Just say it. You don't have to tell them. And besides, it's
But
January.
if you buy a copy and there is a copy, well,
You have a gift now.
Valentine's Day is coming up.
But anyhow, so yeah, that was the werewolf one. Decided to do that, and it went over great. And Tara went, "Let's do this again." I went, "Sure, crazy lady, you do whatever you want. I'll write a story."
Oh, John says he can add some stuff to the bag.
I know, John. You're gonna walk away with you're gonna need a hefty gift bag. Is what you're gonna need.
John runs Jerseys. It's a comic and card shop here in Gloucester.
John, this is Tara, and Tara, John is in the chat right now if you're watching Twitch. You two are the ones that I created the group message for yesterday that we're going to talk about that in a couple minutes because, frankly, I am so excited. That few-minute conversation I had with John yesterday branched out into so many things.
He draws fairies.
Yes,
He drew a
I
fairy
heard.
the other day. It's awesome.
So anyhow, Tara, I don't want to do this all, so I want to give you a chance to talk. You want to talk about the fairy one and the concept and what you're looking for, and we'll leave. We'll come back in 20 minutes. You should be done.
Where people can pre-order copies.
Oh, yeah. You have pre-order set up? Wow.
Not yet. Trying to figure out how to work that out. But if so, it'll be through the Facebook page for Dreampunk Press, which is the small publishing company that I'm trying to make a go of with my child. Initially, it was supposed to be cooperative, and that didn't work out. So we're going to do it, the two of us together, and actually try to make a go of this so that when I retire from the daily grind job, it's full-time and it makes money. So MarsCon last year, when we found out previous year that, hey, it's going to be werewolves, and we're like, hey, I already had a werewolf story in the works, so I could easily write a short story that went with it. Speaking to other people, so it came together. This year, when some little birdie named Andrea said, hey, I know what next year's theme is going to be. And, you know, so I kind of found out like 5 minutes before I hit the webpage. I'm like, hey, yeah, you know, that's another good anthology. Fairies. There's a lot of different fairies. A lot of different mythologies in different cultures with fairies or fairy-like beings. So we're not stuck to the European, you know, Irish fae. Even though, you know, Tara is Irish, the whole bit. But anyway.
My family. And for example, guys, I have decided to do a story on a turf war between garden gnomes and gargoyles. Now, I've announced that out loud. If somebody writes it before me and gets it to Tara before I get mine done, you win. I'll write something else. But that's an example of these are not traditional fairies.
So, yeah, I've gotten some things in. They're all great. I'm really, really excited. I am aiming to just edit for this anthology, vice me writing. It's a very different mental state to be writing and editing. I edit all day long in my regular day job. It's not fiction that I edit during the day, so I really enjoy editing fiction because it's more fun. So this anthology, we created the Facebook page.
Hey, Des.
We had
Here's you, man.
about maybe a dozen folks that had displayed interest at MarsCon that we joined into that Facebook group. I set up deadlines. Life happens. And so Travis was like, hey, I'm going to help you get some more people and get some more interest in this because, frankly, when life happens, not just to me, but to others, some things fall by the wayside. So Travis very nicely kicked my butt and said, hey. So I'll be honest. I think the reason that it's still going to happen is because he kicked my butt and reminded me how exciting it could be.
You could take 5 or 7 people and make a reasonable anthology.
Yeah.
But you could take 20 people and make a better one.
Awesome.
And that's all I was looking at. Also, this takes pressure off where originally we were looking for 5 to 10,000 words. And I say we,
Yeah.
and the only reason I say we
Yeah.
is not to take anything away from Tara except pressure. Because when you have all this, you're like, oh my God, I've got so much to do. But with me standing next to her going, oh no, I'm right here with you. Now she feels like, oh, if she disappears for a week, things still move. And that's the only reason I have put myself up there, is just to, because I know what you're doing. I've been in that position with different things, and I get it. But yeah, with 20 people, now if somebody goes, well, I only have 3,000 words, you go, well, send it to me. Let me look. If it's great, it goes in.
Because one of the one of the submissions to me was actually like around 1,500 words, and I read it and I'm like, you know what, it's too awesome. So while yes, we're saying 5 to 8,000 words, hey, if you got a rocking 1,500 word story, I'm all in on it.
Yeah.
And we also mentioned poetry now. So if you are a poet by a short story writer and you have a thing for fairies,
you know what else we mentioned?
Then, hey, think about submitting something for
artwork.
This.
Now, John has thrown the idea of artwork at us, and this really kicked it off. And we want to work with John on this. But I also want to put that idea in other people's heads. Now, the big thing with artwork, it could be sketchy. It could be... Are you doing full color? We're doing black and white, right?
We're doing black and white on the inside, yeah.
So you're looking at either pencils, inks, or you can go full color, but it's got to be able to go to a grayscale.
Yes.
Without an issue. But if you do sketchy, it's still got to be that, like the Brian Froud stuff. His sketchy fairy artwork is a mainstay and a staple of the fairy art world. Whereas really tight, clean stuff like what John does, it's beautiful also. But yeah, I will say this though. Welcome to the big boy world, or big girl world, big person world. That sounds like fat people. God damn it. Anyhow, remember.
Well, we all know what happens when we use mature, because that's not what we mean either.
No, I'm just saying.
That's a different type of book.
Put on your thick skin and send in a quality product. Because the bottom line, with all the feed, everything we're getting out of people, the excitement that has suddenly built up with this, there are some things that aren't going to make it. Now, that doesn't mean Andrea is a great example of this. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't send in something. Andrea has run a costume contest for years at MarsCon now, and the past 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, both of the people who came in first place in that contest went, I'm going to drop out. My stuff is crap. I don't think it's very good. I can't compete. And Andrew went, no, come on. Come up and have a good time at least. And they did, and they won. So don't put yourself down, but don't send in complete crap. Really, that's it. See, Andrea didn't.
You never know till you try.
That's right.
Exactly.
And also, Tara.
I like.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I like a whole lot of different stuff. Because Travis, I think, can attest to this. What he writes, and I have read his work, is not the normal. It is not what I would normally choose to read, and yet I have enjoyed every book of his that I've read.
Thank you.
So, yes, I have. So, even if for whatever reason, that you feel what you're writing or what you've written, for one reason or another that I might not like, send it, because I like a lot of stuff. I even read horror stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch horror, but
no, I will.
So don't be afraid to submit something, because what I might ask you to do is just tone things back a little bit, because we are aiming for, if somebody's 13-year-old gets a hold of this, we don't want them traumatized.
Yeah, we don't mind sex or violence. We do not want graphic of either. They kissed, they fell into the leafy bed, and then you close the story curtain. We all know what happened.
Because I had to, in my entry, into the werewolf anthology last year, I had to edit my own stuff out and I said, okay, you know what, I need a couple people to read this, please. And yeah, they're like, yeah, that's too far. I'm like, okay, no problem, we'll cut it down. I mean, and that was on my own stuff. So there are. Don't be afraid and think, oh, it's not going to make the cut because it has that violence in it or it has a little bit of sex or whatever. Send it. Just be open to the idea that you may be asked to cut a little bit of that out, or because 6 months after the anthology publishes, you're going to have you can do whatever you want with your story.
Right.
So if you want to then go and post it somewhere. In the original, that's fine. If you want something in the anthology that says, hey, this is an excerpted or whatever.
Right.
So that people that when they read it, that might be more interested in something a little bit more horror or something a little bit more graphic in the sex department, that they know that there's more to this, and that in a few months down the road, they they could possibly, buy it for, as a short story ebook, or post it, from somebody's Patreon or whatever. Hey,
I have put short stories out there that I have later taken and incorporated, expanded into a full novel. Not turned it into a full novel, just used it as part of a full novel. And I'm curious, John, Des, do I have that double echo going on right now? And I'm asking because I have set up a new thing in OBS, the software I use, and I think it's pulling the same audio twice. So Des, John, if you could take a listen to my voice in particular, the ladies are probably fine, but let me know if I have a double echo. No. Thank you, John. Des, give me your feedback on that also. That way two opinions are better than one, which is why everybody gets two of my fucking opinions. No, anyhow. Something I will tell you guys about Tara. I love Tara as an editor because Tara rips you a new one. Not in cruelty. She runs your ass over the coals. She checks every comma, crosses every T, dots every I, but also you'll get comments in the sidebar that says, hey, I think it should be this, but that's up to you. So she's great at that, and as far as I know, she doesn't get her feelings hurt if you're like, nope, screw you, I did it for a reason. Okay. But it's
your book or your work, so.
Yeah, but she will clean up your mess. If you imagine an artist, if you get a beautiful line drawing and it still has the pencil sketches all behind it, Tara's the eraser. And she's going to make you have a pretty picture and show the boldness that you wanted to show through all the scrappy stuff that you forgot to take out. So if you're thin-skinned, get ready to have to grow up a little and deal with this. It's for your own good, and it only helps you make a better art. Now, beyond that, she's great with working. This is the learning experience if you're new, and if you've been around for a while and you've never had this happen to you, then you haven't had a good editor yet. I remember the first time Tara edited one of my stories or books and sent it over to me. I looked at it and looked. It was, and by the way, this thing had been edited before, and it was red lines everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God. And I shut it down, and I went to bed, and I was cranky about it. And the next day I got up, and I opened it up, because I knew I was going to be. It's your baby. And I looked it all over again. I went, no, this is all great. This is reasonable. She just tore it up. Oxford commas. Yes, Jewel. Yes, here's the Oxford commas.
And semicolons.
I just want to say in the discussion of Oxford commas...
I don't know how to use those.
Semicolon. Well, you know how to use an Oxford comma, but semicolons are confusing. Mm-hmm. They're super commas are what they are. Mm-hmm. They're essentially... In some respect,
yeah.
When you need something between a comma and a period, there's your semicolon. It replaces the word and, but, or, and other conjunctions.
Yeah, if you've had too many ands or buts in your paragraph... a semicolon, it's a closer connection in some ways, a little bit more abrupt, increases tension sometimes in there because that and or that but is kind of soft and it kind of eases you in. Good and point. Then, so if you want a little bit more tension, you use a semicolon, and because it's a little bit more abrupt. and abruptness increases tension.
It does. It does.
I love me some semicolons.
It's I have to write down what the point I'm trying to get to because I keep forgetting it, and I'll start a different sentence. I'm like, that's what I wanted to say. I'm gonna have to interrupt myself, and that's why I'm like hogging the mic right now over you two because I'm like,
That's okay.
there's something here that I keep meaning to say.
You're talking
Mhm.
about editing.
It has to do with editing. It has to do with you.
Red lines,
Oh,
and you
no,
slept on it.
no. Listen, guys. The deadline for this, if you want to contribute something, whether it's art, poetry, short story, whatever, the deadline is August 11th. Now, I'm not saying Tara might not give you a little extra space if you need an extra 2-3 days because life happens. We get it. What I am saying is the closer to the deadline, the less feedback you get to give on her edits because she has a job and a life and she's not at your beck and call. So if you're coming in on the wire or after the wire and she sends you copy back going, these are the corrections, it might say these are the corrections I am going to make. And in the contract, it will say that she has full editorial control for grammar and content, which means, yes, she can yank out half your damn story or rewrite half your damn story because that's the contract. Doesn't mean she will, ever.
I try not to.
I've never seen her do something like that, but I just want to let people know, you know, if you're going to slack and not get it to her to the last minute, guess what? You get less control and whatnot because she has to do what she has to do to make sure your story gets into print. You're welcome. Okay, that was what I wanted to say. I'm done.
Okay. I don't like doing that, though.
No.
I prefer working with somebody because the purpose of an editor, and this is not necessarily how everybody feels about an editor. It's how I feel about an editor. As a writer, I have been edited, and I know what that's like. You get something back, and there's red lines all over it, and you're like, you don't know what you're talking about my story.
I've done that with other editors. When I was early in my writing career, I'm like, it was my tone, and you don't get it. But they were right.
One of the reasons I try to also include comments when I edit. Mm-hmm. I want the writer to know why I'm changing something or why I'm suggesting that they change something, and it is because I'm looking at it as a reader. And so if something is vague or if something is confusing to me, my job as editor is to help you fix it because you don't want a confused reader because they're not going to keep reading.
Correct.
And they're not going to go for your second book or the next time you have a short story or anything.
And actually, that's hugely important for an anthology because some readers, because of one story, will put a whole anthology down.
Yeah. And this is, and if you have a short story in here and you have your own, you're writing novels elsewhere and publishing, this is a way to introduce readers to your stuff.
It's a gateway drug, people.
This is first impressions. So you want it to be the best because you want them to then go, I liked this person. I liked what they wrote. I liked how they wrote.
You want a hard-ass editor for the whole book because even if your thing is perfect, you want them to be hard on everybody else. So theirs is perfect. So again, somebody doesn't go, well, I'm not reading any of these people because Travis's story was crap.
Yeah. You read the first short story, somebody doesn't like it, and it might be a while, it might be 2 years before they go, hey, wait, I forgot. Why am I not reading this? And then they flip to the middle and finally find that great author that they, then subsequently loved. But hey, they could have loved you for 2 years. But
by the way, if I can interrupt,
purpose of an
John says this will be a great help for me going from comic scripting to short story novel mode. John, I love Tara, and like I said, if you're not overly sensitive, if you like to create a quality product, this is the kind of editor you want at your back because they're not attacking. Tara is totally supporting and just helping you make the tightest, cleanest project you can. I'm sorry, go on, Tara.
Okay. Because actually I'm going to address that a little bit because I have taken courses in writing the script for graphic novels. had a project partway. Eventually, one of these days, I'll get back to it. But if you are writing a short story for the first time, after writing in a different medium, I used to writing scripts for.
Oh, wow. I don't know what just happened,
Whoa.
but things are so much cleaner and nicer now.
Huh.
I don't know.
Hopefully the audience is all still there.
Hey, guys, we just had a flicker where suddenly everything cleaned itself up. We still looking good to you guys? Let us know. Go on, Tara.
Okay. Let me know when you give me your submission.
Repeat the statement before that.
Okay. Yeah. If you are writing a short story for this anthology and the bulk of your work previous to was in a different type of storytelling medium, writing plays, writing scripts for graphic novels or comics, etc., let me know. One, I have taken a course or 2 or 3 in writing scripts for graphic novels. And more years than I want to admit, I took a course, which is kind of included in my degree, for writing plays.
What degree is that?
Degree in English.
Okay. No, it's a fair question. We always go, what the hell is an English
English
degree for? And nobody really knows. But
now you know. But let me know when you submit if your background, if you're not an experienced short story writer, or if you have, your last 3 projects were not writing a short story, because it will change how I edit and the feedback that I give you. Because what I'll do is use terminology that you're used to, or say, hey, I know that this is how it normally is in a script, but this is how we have to do it in the short story. It's this part of the script you have to give us here.
Something else I'll offer people. Yes, Andrea.
Is it the Facebook link or the website link where they need to submit stuff?
Facebook link. Well, Facebook link and the website should both have the info. Does your website have the info for the... Probably not, huh? You were probably keeping it under wraps with a close group. Facebook, please.
Yeah, it's the Facebook.
Okay.
And
So I posted
on there,
that.
We posted the email to actually submit your short story.
Okay.
And I believe it's in the group description. It's a closed group. You do have to let us know you want in. We're not bringing everybody in. So if you get brought in, you're special. And also, I have a writers group on Facebook called Working Our Rights with a W. Wow. That's the abbreviation. Wow. And there's only a handful of us in there, 9 to 12 of us. But what we're covering in that is multiple things, including story structure, such as beat sheets or the circus tent thing with your plot points and your peaks and valleys within your story. And these kind of things that, as a new writer, I knew nothing about. When it comes to pacing, look, we don't want to sell out. We want to write what we write. But when it comes to pacing, if you can adjust what you're writing to fit the pacing that people expect without even knowing they expect it, your story, even if it's less than great, is going to be that much better because of it. Because it's Dan Brown, not a great writer. I love his plot lines, but he's simplistic, 6th grade level, great books. I tear through them. His pacing is bang, bang, bang. It is beautiful. Dean Koontz is another one. Very simplistic writing style. Great stories. Rewritten with different characters every fucking time. Anyhow, but doesn't mean I don't enjoy them. John Grisham, I hate legal drama, but I will get into one of his books like crazy because, wow. And that's all about pacing and character development and etc. So these are the kind of things we cover in Working Our Rights. But we also cover, how do you get into a convention? How do you start a mailing list? How do you do marketing? How do you do a press release? And how we get into these is somebody goes, how do you do this? And everybody else goes, oh, no, I've been there. Hold on a second. I got you.
And usually one of us that actually knows what we're doing in this and has, answers the question.
Right.
So we're sharing knowledge there.
Right.
And I've lost Andrea.
Andrea,
I don't see Andrea
she's
anymore,
not there
so I don't know what happened.
right now. She may have stepped
Okay.
away for a tech problem.
Okay.
She'll be back
No
shortly.
problem. I just
Yeah,
didn't know if
yeah, good
it
call.
was just me and I'd done something or.
But
Okay.
with working our rights, and I'm not pimping this too much, I'm just saying it's great. We have brought artists in. We have brought a tailor in who wanted help with the marketing and the newsletter thing, etc. Because the bottom line is we're all creative people doing different things with the same end result. So it's handy to have that resource of other people who have or are struggling their way through. And worse because worse is support. Yes, Andrea?
Oh, I was saying, I'm back. I had a phone call.
Oh, okay.
So that's all.
Everything okay?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
All good.
Okay. We're going to game tonight, by the way. We're coming up to the end of the first hour, so in 5 minutes we're taking a video break. So I'll play a video, you guys hang out, we get refills or whatever we need to do in 5 minutes. Tonight, I think we're going to be gaming on Andrea's channel. Tabletop role-playing, we don't know what yet, we don't know who's joining us. If Kennedy was here, I guess Kennedy ended up going to the beach with his family.
Because everybody's doing stuff today. This is when you stay in the house.
Des, are you still there? I don't think Des is still here. It's I imagine John's a fun guy to play with, to game with.
Oh yeah, but he's
working, yeah.
at the store. Yeah.
But with our schedule changes, that's something else to keep in mind. With our schedule changes, as we sadly get affected by the real world, we're looking at shifting around days for gaming, and also we're looking at Talk of the Tavern, wondering if this is the most effective time slot. So we'll figure it out.
We'll see.
Yeah. So when we come back, what I'd love to discuss is just fairies. Throw stories out there, throw ideas out there, different concepts, mention our favorite movies, our favorite books, our favorite artists, etc., etc. Just kind of geek out over fairies. Because I also definitely want to mention Dark Fae, which, by the way, historically, fairies are not nice things.
No,
I've seen
it's not all
Labyrinth.
Tinkerbell.
No, matter of fact, Tinkerbell is what started us off on the good fairy offshoot in pop
That's
culture.
Disney.
It is, and there's a beauty there, and there's a wonder there. But man, the whether it's Brothers Grimm or any of this stuff, and by the way, Brothers Grimm, when they collected their stories, they actually cleaned them up so they were more family friendly.
Yes.
Because they're not.
But if you look at their stuff, probably 70% of it ends with somebody dying.
Yes.
Because it was a lesson of don't take candy from strangers, essentially, over and over.
Exactly. That's what it was.
Yeah.
They were warning stories for kids.
Yeah, everything has a price, and nothing is free, and, things...
And that person that's pretending to be your friend probably isn't.
Yeah, welcome to humankind.
Yeah.
So, John, what we'll do is, we'll drop me a Facebook message with what kind of schedule you have open, and we'll see.
I've gamed with them before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he fun? Just say it on air. Be honest.
Yeah. It'd be cool if we can get him in a game.
Yeah, he'd definitely be a character in more ways than one. I assume. It's because John, I like John, but he and I, because I know we will talk for hours. I don't talk.
Yeah,
too
they
much.
will.
Yeah. Because I know
Teenage girls.
Travis will talk and John will listen, or do
No.
they actually both get to talk?
Oh no, John is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not just me that time. I feel like I should hush more during the next hour now. Thanks a lot.
Oh, sorry. It's not my intention.
Yeah,
It's all
because
good.
then I'd have to talk.
That's true. That is part of the
I
reason.
don't want to.
Andrea's like, I don't want to talk a lot. I'm like, okay.
You're the host of a talk show. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to talk.
I think so.
Well,
So
I'll talk. Oh my goodness.
It's
We need to get things together for later too. So.
for the game or for like the next hour.
All of it.
'Cause I'm just gonna get another beer. I tell you what, as this gets warmer, it gets much more flavor, and it's much more that bitter flavor.
Like
And
skunk.
yeah, I'm not terribly happy
It
with
says that
it.
on the box. I'm like, did they let them put that on the box? Skunky?
Does it really?
Ew.
Oh, it does. It has a flavor triangle with,
It
like one side is
does.
floral and citrusy, the other side is piney and woody, the other side is like skunky. And I'm like,
Yep.
well,
It's like a forest.
Yep.
Ew.
I don't know who went, this is a good idea. People like this. Put that skunky flavor in there. What?
Oh,
Okay,
well, if you
break.
drink
Where
beer,
exactly did they
hey.
get that?
I don't know. Ready for break time?
Okay.
Okay. Now, Tara, as we've told you before, if we all sit down in our chairs and we're ready to go, I'll give a thumbs up. If everybody's ready, give it back. If you don't,
Yep.
when the video runs out, we come back no matter what. So mute
Okay.
yourselves. Here we go. We'll be
All
back.
right.
Bill and I are having a good night. I'm all like, yeah, baby, rub. I hate it when I get blue balls. Carefree, free as the blood flows. I gotta go. Look, Casper is outrageous comfort. Ah! This is outrageous. So I have a black friend, and now I have colored buds. It's like an entrapment ad on Craigslist. Hey, can we get me some creepers?
Don't you mean sneakers?
No, I mean creepers. Creepy shoes. You know, there's some brand names that just don't inspire confidence. We all know, Star-Kissed and Armor. But what about Critter brand pulled pork? I don't know if I'm trusting that one. I like my women like I like my crosswords. Big and easy. Volume 11. The opinion of somebody who is retarded-hearted. Genius party game. Dart shots. That's right. You put shot glasses right underneath where you're throwing metal-tipped things. Great for drunks. Look, I found deep tissue foam roller. Look, I want to show you something. See them? Little Woody's nuts. These nuts. I don't even know how to make a joke out of this. So we got eats, which is like text speak, and then it's cock and nuts. Eat cock's nuts. Tail pea? Cocktail pea? Cocktail peanuts? So I remember the first time. Look at those little hips go.
Elmo is one ticklish monster.
Press his foot. One more time.
What part?
He's young. Oh my god, oh my god. Don't drop it, Andrea. For whoever this applies to, love must be fabulous. You ever felt like a sandwich? I found. It's a flamingo dancer. I wish more people would bring this in the shower with them. And a lot of my problems. You should wash your ass and protect it from odor with Kraken Guard. Worst date ever. First impressions mirror. First impressions are so important. Just want to let you know that in the shower, every man jacks.
Lip snacker.
So my girlfriend broke up with me on Valentine's Day by giving me this.
Hey, pussy.
He can't hear you. See that? Grill power. Grill power. Look, it's polishing charcoal. Wonder if I could use that on my knob. Wait, don't drink that shit. Look, I found something for most people who go to the voting booth. Isn't that funny? Maybe we can get one of these for my heart. First I saw this, then I saw that. Did you see it too? What was it? Moved across your dick's entrance.
Dicks.
Assholes.
You should moisturize your balls.
Why?
No,
What?
I don't know.
Because they're dry.
Because they're dry.
Should we do that one again?
Yeah, because
Okay. Ready? Go.
you should moisturize your balls.
Why?
Because they're dry.
Should we do that again?
Ready? Go.
Hold on. Stop looking at me. Alright. Stop looking at me. You should look at the camera. You should moisturize your dry balls.
Can you help me? But would you be gentle?
Okay, and we're back. I was just looking at Mr. T's post on Instagram. I'd like to have him as a guest on the show.
Hey, sorry, I was talking. I was on mute. Was there a video one?
Yeah, there was.
Because
but
I didn't see it.
Yeah, well, I came back and it had gone through, and I'm like, how short is that video? So I don't know. It started though. I saw it start. I don't know.
See, and I refreshed my page, and now I lost all the chat.
That's okay. Last thing was John saying yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Pretty much. Well, talking about being talkers.
Okay.
So. Okay. And John, I'll check your message to me after the show. Okay, so what are we looking at here? What is that notification there? Oh, Tara logging. In the.
You were talking about Mr. T.
No, in the group with the fairy writers, I posted the link to the show so they could jump in and join us if they want. By the way, anybody new joining us, if you're brand new to Twitch, you'll get an email from them. You have to confirm your address.
Mm-hmm.
For if you're not brand new to Twitch, you do have to follow the channel to be able to chat because dem's my rules. Max, you said or call. Yeah, possibly. If we have an
Not
hour.
right now.
No, after the show. But yeah, with the way we get to chatting, I'll make sure we have time. And Andrea's stream is 2 hours after this, and I still have to set up a whole game because call them Kathy. Oh, Chatty Kathy, I get it. I see what you did there. Oh, my new beer. I'm glad you asked.
And if you are just joining us, even if you're not, go ahead down below the video and hit the share button. Tell your friends, family, enemies, whoever, to come join us.
And also, if you have Amazon Prime and you've connected it to your Twitch account, couple clicks, nice and easy, you can subscribe to our channel and support us that way. No cost to you, gives us a couple bucks. Okay, so this is Stone Ripper, San Diego Pale Ale, described as a rippin' swell of juicy hops. And the story on the back is, when perfect conditions for a pale, When it came to creating Ripper, we drew inspiration from the coastal surf cultures of Southern California and Oz. Blah, blah, blah. Frothy peaks, hoppy green buds. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's that green, bitter taste of green plant matter. I don't know.
Of lawn that a
lawn,
skunk
yeah.
got on. Ew.
Maybe. Could be.
I don't know.
There we go.
I have a beer in there, but I have to drive after this, so.
Either else we have to pay for wrinkling time again.
Another day. I don't want to. I liked the movie.
Did you like
I
it?
thought it was really good. I did.
It's I thought it was okay. I'd like to go back and read the original source material again, so I know.
Well, it may not be like the book, but the visuals beautiful, the costuming, the lighting, it was really pretty.
You know, you compared it to Avatar when it comes to visuals, and so yeah, I can see that. Or
It was very intriguing.
it reminded me for visuals. You ever seen What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams?
I don't know.
Oh man, it's a wonderful movie. The storyline being, one of his kids died, or both of his kids died in a car accident, and then his wife committed suicide, and he's left, and he basically decides he's going to end it. And I might be misquoting the plot here, but it's his journey through the afterlife, trying to find his place in it, and it's a very deep movie.
No, I
but
have not seen that.
visually beautiful, stunning, and very meaningful. A lot of, it's one of those movies where you get to interpret a lot of the content, but it's not overly thinky. They will explain what they meant by it soon enough. So
I like thinky movies. Oh, and we realized it was Captain Kirk is in A Wrinkle in Time.
yeah, what a cast. See, Tara, you're quiet again.
Sorry.
Well, I'm wondering what clicked last time where you suddenly, your volume came in well. I don't know. Try bringing your mic up just a little bit so it's even with the corner of your mouth.
Possible.
That's better.
There we go.
But yeah, it had Chris Pine, Oprah Winfrey, Reese Witherspoon, and others.
Priya from The Office.
There you go.
I don't know the actress's name.
I don't know. I don't remember. I looked it up during the movie, but okay. Which is the joy of watching a movie at home. You can pull up IMDb. Oh, you got your coffee nut M&Ms. They're actually pretty good. I was surprised.
Yeah.
They're not too coffee and they're not too chocolate. They're a wonderful blend of the two.
They're good.
Okay, so I wanted to talk more about fairy mythology overall, which we touched on last hour. Was there anything that anybody had closing thoughts on or wanted to say something else about that we already talked about before we move on? That's a no, right, Tara? Okay, I just don't know if you're like dancing.
Okay, well, let me since I'm going to plug something that's mine real quick, because it's the full-length werewolf novel.
Nice.
That the short story in the werewolf anthology, it's set in the same world, so it's called Selena File.
No.
So it's kind of romance, but there's more to it than that.
Now, is it romance erotica?
There's sex in it. I wouldn't call it erotica.
Okay. Yeah, erotica, it's like every chapter you've got a full scene.
Yeah,
Oh.
no, it's not that.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but
Now,
I figured that way, that's out of the way, and I've plugged.
which world is it set in? Because I know you have there's the Kimmy Darnell world, which is a pen name for kind of cozy fireside romance, and I don't think we've actually done much but a short story or two that touches that world.
That's all we've got so far, because we gotta.
Then there's your steampunk world, and then there's the third world that you and Mo work in. Am I correct on that?
Mo and I both work in the steampunk world.
Okay.
Okay. This is a contemporary world that werewolves and witches and warlocks exist in,
Uh-huh.
but the general population doesn't really know about it.
Okay. So give me your
So,
2-line elevator pitch for this book.
oh,
You suck at these, I know.
yes, I know, I suck at them. So,
I'll give you a paragraph, and I'll tell you how to edit it down.
yeah, I've got to. Let me just check and see what I wrote on the back real quick. Yeah, that sucks. And Mo told me it sucked, and I said, "Well, give me something better." And that,
Do you want me to rewrite it for you?
yeah, I should probably send it to you. And
Andrea?
We have a question
Okay.
from Lady Skipper. Is it politically correct to call them fairies? Fae people?
Here's the deal with fairies. They're okay with fairies. It is a gender-neutral term. That is not a feminine term nor masculine. And frankly,
It's a fairy term.
they're above giving a damn. They're used to people having misconceptions, and they thrive on misconceptions. They use it to their advantage.
It's easy to do evil if they think you're Tinkerbell.
Yeah, I do a little evil with Tinkerbell.
Only a little evil because
That's right. Very good, very good. Look at Tara, all clever and everything.
yeah, that was my one moment for the month. So
Yeah, you bring up sex, and
You
Tara's
got it.
hilarious. See, and that's why we were able to create the card game Awkward Compliments
I
together,
know.
because we could do that giant.
one small burst of.
There we go. Hold on, I'm checking Andrew's response. I threw a nice show. Sure you're not... Oh, wow. Andrew just responded. He says about me posting, hey, come join in the fun. Nice show. I'm not sure if you're being hard on Tara or if I'm just used to editing. I've been edited by the guys down at Washington Post, NPR. I found Tara's edits to be comprehensive and respectful. Then again, I'm a weirdo who likes being edited. Andrew, if you are listening, man, I totally agree with you. This is why I'm telling folks, if you've got thin skin, man, she's rough. But if you really want to better your product and your art, God, she's beautiful to work with. It's a delight to have somebody tear through your stuff and make it better. Because we're creative and we just don't realize all the crap. That's something else. As I'm going through my next steampunk novels, I'm like, I yanked like 12 pages out of backstory because I'm like, this is not necessary for the current book. And that is partially me growing as a writer and artist, but it's also partially due to Tara and just listening to her and seeing when she yanks one sentence out or one paragraph out or asks me to expand on it or show, not tell. And I'm looking at this whole backstory that I put in for a character going, this is just a huge clump of that. So a great editor helps you grow.
Now, as a writer, you actually need to write that stuff.
Right.
Because that is how you learn your characters.
Right.
It's how you define them, and you've got to sometimes get that down on paper, but it doesn't necessarily belong in your novel.
Well,
so, I mean, I've worked with, I've had young writers ask me to mentor them in projects, and they will spend their entire creative energies in world building and character building and never get around to telling a story. And they've got a great idea for a story, they just never get that part down on paper.
Right.
There was one young lady that I was working with, and we're 3 years down the road, and she's still world building, and she's still, she's got this cast of 30 characters. I'm like, honey, you got to get a book out first. You got to put a story down, because it's great that you have characters. It's great that you've got this beautiful world, but until you start playing in it, it doesn't exist for anybody else.
Right.
And not that world building's not important, and not that
it is, yeah.
Character development and creating your characters aren't important, but you actually have to write too. So
there was Guardians of the Galaxy. There is one instance where they have a character that does one action, and it defines that they look out for the underdog, that they're a helper, a savior of people. One single action, no backstory needed. But go on.
But as somebody who watches it, you don't need to know that. You don't need that backstory. However, as a writer, you have to know, because you're not going to find that one defining thing that defines that character unless you know their backstory.
Right.
And I know it's very, very... I'm also a writer. Very bad at editing my own stuff. So I know, you write stuff and you're like, but I put all this work into it. And I'm like, yeah, and it shows in your final novel, but it doesn't have to physically show in your final novel. Which is why sometimes it's great when you are working and you're writing a series of novels, because you do that world building and that character building once, and then you get to play with it over and over again.
This was something, the two major parts that I yanked out. One was a backstory for the three brothers who are the bad guys, and another one is the backstory for one of the good guys. Now, I plan to continue that one good guy character in another series. And I went, if I want to put this in, this could be put into one of those books down the road. If I want to put it in. And as for the bad guy story, considering this is a multi-book series, and these bad guys aren't the primary antagonist in the first book, I don't need that much about them and why they have that relationship. I can save that for book 2 or book 3 if I feel it's necessary.
You put a little bit in book 1 and a little bit of it in book 2 and a little bit in book 3. So what you're doing is you're developing that character for the reader, and they're discovering little bits and pieces about them that they need to know at the time. Because one thing, especially if it's a side character and not the main character, if you go ahead and do this big data dump of this side character's main history in book 1, and they're a side character, so your reader, they're there, they know they're there, but their focus is on your main character. Say you're in book 4 of your series, and there's this, and the reader's like, but why? I don't understand. Because they're not going to necessarily remember everything about that side character in book 1. So you put a little bit about them, but as the writer, as the creator of that, you need to know that whole history so that you don't have that character do something out of character. So that you know that character. But you can go too far sometimes too, because you have to I think have some flexibility with your character too when you're writing, because a lot of times what you anticipate your characters doing in book 1 and where your series is going to go, by the time you get to book 4, things may have changed.
Absolutely.
They say there's two different types of writers: an outliner, who plans everything to the nth degree, and a pantser who goes, "Oh, I've got an idea," and sits and writes. I'm somewhere between the two.
We've discussed this at length because I'm somewhere in between the two also, but different than you at the same time.
Right, at the same time. So everybody, you develop your own kind of style, the own way that you develop the worlds that you want to work in. And I kind of advocate for somewhere middle of the road, because you have these people who, 3 years down the road, they're still world building and character building and haven't put a piece of plot on paper yet, because they are they have to know absolutely everything about these characters, and they're never going to get anything written because they're never going to be 100% of developing all of that.
One of the notes that I constantly have in front of me is, put your story where it feels like it's in the middle of events that have been going on for a long time. Now, I actually have hundreds of years, because if you wrote a story right now, set in the USA, etc., there's hundreds of years of background to this story, just politically, etc., no matter where your character is set in it. And you don't want to have to explain that. You want people to feel like they're being immersed in an already developed world, and that events have led up to this that you haven't explained, because you can't tell it all. Now, in Harbinger, I have been told, I did a good balance between character development and world building without giving data dumps, info dumps. So yeah, it's this is why the side stories are important. And by the way, I'm going to tie this right back into what we're talking about, the anthology. Short stories are an incredibly effective tool for learning how to tell a very concise story. Because any short story probably could be a full-length novel if you just added all kinds of crap that you don't need. But for an effective short story, you want to tell your story and then you want to take out those extra things, groom your story, trim it up, and make it as streamlined as possible where you have every word is important to the story. Every word moves that story forward. And yeah, it's an exercise, like a physical exercise, but for writing.
Right.
And
when you're writing a short story, now this is of course depending on the length, because short stories can be 1,500 words. Short stories can be 1,200 words.
Or 12,000.
12,000, yeah. 1,200. I'm not the math person in my house. We all know that, right? So there's a varying length. But a good rule to go by when you're writing a short story: one conflict, one main character, one villain. Don't really develop your side characters. Those are the three things for a short story.
You know, that's going to help me with the Gargoyle Gnome story. That little bit of advice is gold for that story, because you're looking at a turf war. There's multiple characters. Go on.
That doesn't mean you can't, you can't have more characters. You're just not going to go through and really develop a whole lot about those other characters. Now, if you're writing a short story that's upward of 8,000 words, hey, guess what? You may have a tertiary character in there that you develop, because maybe that's the pull between the antagonist and the protagonist.
Right.
But when you're so then when you're writing a novel, all right, you're going to have a big main conflict, but you're going to have a whole bunch of other ones. There should be a conflict really for every chapter should have some type of conflict in and of itself that builds to that bigger conflict. And of course, you're going to have more characters. You can tell more about those characters, develop them more, because some of these conflicts are going to be not necessarily conflicts of your main character. They could be the sidekick, the best friend, the girlfriend, boyfriend, the talking dog. They're going to have a conflict too, and in a novel you can address that. In a short story, though, which is, since we're talking about the anthology, really one conflict.
Right.
One main character and one villain that gets developed. And yes, they still need a certain amount of development, or the reader's not going to care.
Some writers love a prologue. I like to think of a short story as the prologue to a full-length novel sometimes. Not all the time. But a lot of times that quick, concise, doesn't relate to the main novel, and we throw a fucking prologue in there because we're like, oh, we need this backstory. And it ends up being a short story of its own that doesn't directly relate, and you don't need it for a full-length novel. And until you're George R.R. Martin or Robert Jordan or Stephen King, one thing I loved about Stephen King is he would introduce the storekeeper of the convenience store, and he'd give you 20 pages on this guy and what he's been doing for the past 2 weeks and how the wife and the dog, and then he'd kill him.
Yep, made you care about him.
Yeah, he built this character up and then he killed him, and I loved it because I'm like, this is a separate story inside this larger story, and it fits beautifully in the framework of the larger story, and it moves the story forward effectively. But you could clip just that and go short story.
Yeah. The big thing, if you are doing a prologue, though, because I have a series, I have a trilogy, written under a different pen name, and I use prologues in it. And I know that I had gotten feedback from some other writers and some agents. We don't like your prologue.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, they were very, very specific, and they said, well, because your character in the prologue is 12 years old, you've given him a 12-year-old voice. You have a middle school voice in your prologue, and then in the rest of the novel, because they're older, you're using the YA voice. And I'm like, well, yeah,
right, because he
he's
grew up.
a 12-year-old in the
Right.
prologue. So, which is, there's a bit of a struggle there. But the one thing with the prologue is to remember is that while it is similar to a short story, don't resolve the conflict. And at the end of the short
point.
story, you have to have a conflict
You
resolved.
resolve a conflict, but not the
A
primary conflict.
Yeah. Or it's the setup. In mine, often
Right.
it is the something that the reader needs to know. But because because we all know that as adults or teens or whatever, stuff from our childhood shapes us. And it was something that, I'm going to, all right, spoiler alert. These were written as E.G. Gaddis. And the first one, Vampire Heritage, there's vampires in there, but they're bad guys. But the reader needed to know what happened. Because in the rest of the novel, there are characters in there, side characters, that don't necessarily believe the story because they don't believe in vampires. But I wanted the readers to know, yes, they are real. I didn't want that conflict. I didn't want them to go, well, is this so it introduced how this, this evil blood-sucking vampire had impacted, and it
I'll give you
the main character, but it also gave allowed me to give a little bit of insight about how the vampires worked in this universe, without having to go into too much detail later on.
Oh.
And as a prologue, I thought it worked. So that's how I use a prologue. There's different reasons to use them, and there's reasons to not use them.
I'll give you an example of a great prologue. And I don't want to interrupt. You want to finish yours and then wave at me? Go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead.
Okay. Guardians of the Galaxy. It opens with a prologue of the young Star-Lord. And the reason that prologue is important is basically you realize that this kid, the whole subplot is him seeking family. Him seeking that trust again in somebody else in his life that he decided not to have because of this one shaped event in his childhood. Yes. And that's actually the subplot of the whole movie. So you have the primary plot, but his personal character arc and the character arc of the whole team is becoming family and trusting somebody as family again. Yes. So there's an example of, is that piece necessary to the movie? Well, in a different movie, they could have definitely taken that in, and in one line, given that whole prologue. My mother died, and I haven't trusted anybody like family. I was raised by the Ravagers, who are screwballs and jerks. And you're done. But they did it as a prologue. It worked because, well, frankly, the rest of the movie held up the prologue, and that's something else. If your prologue is interesting and carries itself, but then everything else that follows supports that. Yes. And follows through with it, which is what you were saying about don't resolve the conflict. I'm saying you can resolve a conflict, which in that case is he ran away from the death of his mother. That's resolving his conflict with that. He ran away. But it didn't resolve the bigger conflict of, how do I trust? How do I have a family? How do I bond? So it can be done. We have totally not talked about fairies at all.
Not yet.
What's your favorite fairy?
We're still talking editing. So let's talk about fairies, because I mentioned in the first hour that in this anthology we're not just looking for the European standard of fae,
or American,
or American,
Tinkerbell.
Which is Tinkerbell.
Not that you can't do that.
If that's what you're writing about, is the the fae, which is in Irish folklore and whatnot. There's a very specific insidious fae. We're talking Merlin and Morgan Le Fay. We're talking that whole bit, which has its own mythology. Want to write in that? Hey, send me something. I love that.
Also,
if that's not your thing, in this anthology, we are also considering, hey, the genies, the jinn, that in and of itself is its own Fae mythology.
Mm-hmm.
They have, it has its own background on how they're developed, how they came to be. Are they good or evil?
Right.
No, it's not all the Disney
No.
from Aladdin.
No, quite the opposite.
Quite the opposite. Unless you can control them, which was, the whole lamp thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. There are mystical beings in just about any culture if you go looking.
No.
And so, hey, if you've got something, there's mystical beings in a lot of Asian cultures, South American, go for it.
That'd be great. Andrea?
So, Fae is not just fairies. What would be considered Fae? Like elves, gnomes? Not you, Travis. Well, you could be. I don't know.
I'll let Tara go.
So, what would be considered Fae for this book that people would know?
Well, any mystical being. I mean, when you look at the gnomes, if you look at gnomes, that comes from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Elves are more Slavic. Technically, if you really wanted to, vampires from the Carpathians. That is, when you go back into and research
John
that history.
says dragons, by the way.
Dragons are one. Yeah.
So that would be Fae also?
They can be. I mean, and when you talk about dragons, especially if you look at Asian cultures, in China, the dragons of China are very, very far more mystical than the dragons in Europe.
Okay, well, I'm just talking about Fae that you would consider for your book. So dragons are okay and
dragons
elves
are okay.
Okay.
I would love to throw in this
Quetzalcoatl
concept,
will work for me.
which is South American, by the way, for everybody.
South America.
I would like to say Fae quite often are not from this world. They're from a different dimension, a different reality, and they travel to this world. So extra dimensional beings, and by the way, if anybody wanted to write a story that ties Fae directly into UFO encounters, why not? It's different, it's unique. Keep in mind Rumpelstiltskin, and by the way, dwarves being Norwegian or Nordic background, but Rumpelstiltskin, something from somewhere else that came here for a price. And these things historically often have prices attached to it, whether they're genies. Kennedy on Governor's Island in New York, so my connection is spotty. We were just talking about you. Kennedy will probably be joining us for the anthology. We talked about it a bit yesterday, and there was actually something with him in connection, because he mentioned maybe a Fae Pride Parade would be an interesting story and concept. Yeah, see, Kennedy, I told you that.
Okay, so
maybe you shouldn't do that.
Oh. Just so y'all know, Dreampunk Press, which is my small publishing company, we have a saga line, which is, Momo would have to give you exactly what it is, but basically it's the LGBT, very pro. Most of our books have LGBTQI, whatever types of characters, but they are not the angsty. Okay?
They're not the
They're
social justice warriors of...
Right.
They just happen to
There's
be.
enough of that already out there.
They're part of the world. That's that.
Exactly. That's how it is
Which
in
is
the
how
real
it
world.
should be.
That's what we're trying to portray. So
I have a question.
anything that way for this anthology, 3 thumbs up if I had another thumb. But I'm a girl.
There, have mine. What does I stand for? You said LGBTQI. I don't know.
TIA.
LGBTQ.
IA.
What's that? What? I don't.
Is it
There's
intersexual?
so many letters.
It's yes, it's for intersex.
JJ, thank you for the follow.
And then
Here's
A
to you.
is asexual. So you've got the L,
Intersex. Yeah.
lesbian, G, gay, B, bisexual, T, trans, Q, queer,
Mm-hmm.
because guess what? That's, all
Covers
encompassing
everything.
of a whole lot of other things,
Mhm.
as well as something very specific for people that identify that way. intersectional meaning sometimes you're born with both, and we have to recognize that. A is asexual, and yes, that's very, very important. That includes demisexuals, by the way, just so you know.
Which Tara and I both kind of identify with there. So
yes.
See, there's just new letters, and I wasn't sure. Yeah.
And the plus signs means anything else. If you maybe sometimes people identify as two. They may be lesbian, but they may also identify sometimes as queer. Hey, they might be lesbian and asexual. Guess what? They're romantically attracted to other, female, romantically attracted to other females, but they don't necessarily feel asexual attraction. So they're lesbian, but then maybe they're also asexual, because if there's a romantic connection there, then they will. So there's a lot in there.
But if we look into our own sexuality, we'll often find...
I identify as human most days.
Most days. I really wish I could identify dragon, but I haven't gotten the fire-breathing thing down yet.
Not all dragons fire-breathe. Don't.
I identify as human with dwarf tendencies.
Kennedy says, I'll rewatch the beginning of the stream.
Yeah.
Kennedy, most of the beginning of the stream was discussing editing and format and a huge sprinkling of other things in there. But yeah, check it out. I'll have it up, well, here immediately after the show, but on YouTube 24 hours after the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So with Fae and Faeries, like I said, if you look at your classic mythology, leprechauns, brownies you put out a bowl of milk, and you didn't put it out to give favor to them. You put it out there so they wouldn't fuck with your shit while you're sleeping.
Yep.
This is true.
Leprechauns, you didn't hunt them down for a pot of gold. My grandmother, raised Irish, I once asked her, do you believe in leprechauns? And she's like, here's the deal. We'd be on the bus, traveling down the road, and when we passed a certain forest, we would stop. We all got out of the bus, and we said, good morning, little people. And we got back on the bus and left. And I remember one time, I heard feet. I heard footsteps, noises up in the attic. And I asked my mother, are those rats? She smacked me and said, those are the little people. We don't talk about them. So, yeah, trolls, popular fae. There you go, John.
Yep.
That's a good one. So, and especially if you go out of the Western culture, out of Europe, and go into Africa and Asia and South America and Polynesia, there's so much more. And to
make one up.
So people, your stories don't just have to be about fairies with the wings that flutter about.
Right.
Actually, diversity, I think Tara and I agree, diversity in everything is awesome, but especially in and make one up is an interesting concept.
Yep.
If these beings from wherever they come from were to meet each other and interact and interbreed, what would that be like? In Dungeons and Dragons, there is a fairy dragon. They're adorable with big butterfly wings and about this, 3-4 feet long.
Oh.
What would life like one of them be like? Hummingbirds.
Yep.
So
they're not really hummingbirds. What if those are
fairy dragons?
Fairy dragons, yeah.
We have lots.
Because try not to do spoilers, but Andrew's short story, he didn't, he never named what his fake character identified as, if that's what we want to use. So it was very, very fluid, but it was definitely a fae and mystical being. So make something up. There's ideas. If you want to, hey, this is an elf, and this is, his shelf, and he's getting off of that thing and running around.
Those things freaked me out.
That'd be a great story.
Hey, it's just this mystical being. I'm not sure that the fae and fairies identify themselves as an elf or a gnome or troll. We, as humans, identify them that way.
We categorize everything.
So,
Couple comments, if I may. John says, somewhat in topic, the paranormal investigators I've worked with have investigated fae at homes. We have done multiple fairy shows, and I often point out what some people might consider ghost activity really exactly matches what other people consider fairy activity within their house or around their house. So that is definitely a great story concept of, Here comes your local Ghostbusters team into your house, and they're not tracking a ghost. They're dealing with fairies. Kennedy says in the Philippines there are myths of the duende, dwarf, and you're supposed to ask permission before passing the type of tree they live in. Precisely. And if we modernize it, instead of a tree, it could be a statue. It could be a building. It could be a junker car sitting on the street corner
Be a
abandoned.
telephone pole.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, because now trees are made into homes
That's true.
and things. So yeah. So as far as the stories, basically any type of fae, even made up fae,
Yes.
are fine. You don't mind sex and violence as long as it's not graphic.
Correct.
Are there any other guidelines people need to know about when submitting?
No.
Okay. And I'm putting the link to the Facebook page for Dreampunk Press for submissions and all that good stuff.
And I'm putting the link for, this is for the actual book, that Facebook group. That's the closed Facebook group I mentioned, which, by the way, Tara, I took the liberty of going ahead and renaming it to Dreampunk
I noticed
Projects.
that. Thank you.
Basically, tying it in, and as you saw, took it from a secret group to a closed group so other people can ask to be a part of it. And we have had some great folks join us, and within 24 hours, some of them already submitting multiple things.
Yes, I've noticed. Haven't got a chance to read all of them or check them all out yet, but
because they showed up
off the
yesterday or
next
this
2
morning.
days. Yeah, and I'm on here today. But I'm off from work tomorrow and Friday. So I'm hoping to jump into at least reading over, and if I see anything that I think is going to need to be cut from, then I will be, I'll be letting those folks know right away. Because if they're not comfortable with that, then there's no sense in me, we should work that out at the very beginning.
She's at like Gilmore Girls speed right now, isn't she?
What?
You ever watched the TV show Gilmore Girls?
I've watched a couple of episodes, but not.
Do you remember that they spoke quickly?
Yeah.
Because they had so much content they wanted to squeeze into one. We watched the making of. Yeah, you were at that high speed which the characters constantly had, except for one or two of them. And I'm not saying stop. It shows an enthusiasm, excitement, etc. No, not at all. Not at all. Keep going. Just.
So.
So yeah, have a good time.
Completely gone.
Here's something I'll tell you guys with anything you're going to ever submit to. Never take your first two ideas, because somebody else already submitted them or thought of them, or it's just something everybody would think of. Now you could take your first idea and modify it, and then modify it again, but get out of that mainstream box. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go wild. Give it something, whether it's a twist at the very end or something different, like your own made-up creation, or a blend of two, whatever. It's because if everybody does the standard story, then you have a book where every story is the same story with a different point of view or whatever. So,
and if you're starting, if you haven't written anything yet, you're interested in submitting for the anthology, feel free to go ahead. If you're part of that Facebook group, if not, asked to join, we'll let you join, and just put a little bit in there and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Do you already have something that fills this space in the anthology? And by the weekend, I'll try to answer back and say yes or no, because I do have to kind of at least skim through the submissions that I've gotten in the last couple of days, just to get a handle. I know what two of them are because I've actually edited two already. So I can get a handle on what fae are in these stories, what's going on in these stories. I'm not going to share what those are,
right?
Because that would be, I think, telling a little bit too much right now. But if you have a concern that you have something that maybe you think is a little bit too generic, may have already been done, feel free to ask in that Facebook group, and by the weekend I'll try to give you an answer of yes or no.
No, just so
Whether
everybody
yes,
knows.
it's already been done or no. That doesn't mean I'm going to hold you to that particular storyline, because we all know when we write, things happen.
Mhm.
Our ideas change. Something happens and we're like, oh wait, but at least I can give you some initial feedback before you go ahead and write a 3,000 word story, and then I go, hey, you know what, somebody just gave me those exact same 3,000 words.
This also lets other people know what you're doing, and I will probably answer you immediately going, give Tara a few days and she'll get back to you. This is just me going, we heard you, we'll let you know, give us a minute to catch up. Because that's what I do. But the bottom line is it's Tara's baby. I'm just here to keep it on the rails while Tara does other things. So, and if you find me brusque, well, I might be. Tara will be more gentle. Jules says, box? What box? I could have put shit in that box. Are you moving? Andrea, what do you have?
Well, I have a question. Okay. Just, okay, they kind of know what you're expecting and the type of fae you'll allow. When is it due?
August 11th.
Okay.
So we get, what, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Give or take a day or two?
And as I've said, the sooner you get in,
Sooner the better.
the more flexible Tara can be with the editing. If you get it in on August 9th or 10th, guess what? Tara gets to do all the editing without you giving feedback because there's a deadline.
And the sooner you get it in, the better the chance your story will get accepted. Because if somebody writes the exact same thing and you turn in your second, well,
That's true.
too bad, so sad.
Which is another reason to shout it out in the Facebook group too, by the way. If you go, I want to do something about genies and how they have a fetish for lingerie, well, maybe somebody else has a genie story, but it's totally about the war of genies versus dragons. It's different enough we can go, oh, there's...
Maybe they run a lingerie store so they can team up.
Kennedy, you could do it, man. With any kind of creative person, including writers, I have found, Kennedy just said, I'll really try if I have a good storyline. Our storylines are never as good as we want them to be. Even if we go do the whole story running hot crazy with it, at the end we look back in and go, oh, that's not. Send it. Send it. Just do it. Get it done.
Yeah, I've had stories come in to me for editing that didn't quite finish. And by that I mean it kind of left it was almost there, but it kind of left the reader really hanging. There was no satisfaction.
I've wrote those before.
I didn't turn this and say no and not accept. I'm one who's going to say, okay, hey, again, I give feedback. The end of your story, we need something more. Doesn't need to be a whole lot, but we need some kind of closure for the reader. I gave a couple of suggestions on how I thought it could go and what for me would be a satisfying ending. Not that the writer had to take any of them.
Right.
The writer went, accepted my other changes, gave 3 more paragraphs that were absolutely nothing like what I had suggested, but it helped them go, I see what you mean by there's no closure for the reader in here, and then gave absolutely 3 great, wonderful 3 more paragraphs that closed everything out, and I had like a couple little minor, like a comma. Yes, I do the Oxford comma. I'm letting you know right now. If you don't like the Oxford comma, if you don't like commas,
I'm
a comma girl. No, there are reasons not to use commas. There are types of writing styles.
Oxford comma.
So
the Oxford comma just delineates things better.
Okay.
Couple of comments from Kennedy also, Andrea. Go ahead.
I was going to say, all right, in college I write papers, and it would be great paper except for commas. What? No, I know Oxford commas. Are there other types of commas?
Yes.
Are they all from Oxford?
No.
Did they
some
go
of
to
them
different
are from
schools?
London. Some of them are from Boston.
Before we go into this, let me go ahead and read his comments. Kennedy says, It may be a variant under my novel in progress, where my main character is a demon who lures souls to a slightly more evil, but if the Fae takes that soul first. No, that sounds great to me. So,
it sounds wonderful, because that will help draw people to your other stuff.
Correct.
That's kind of the, for you, this is an opportunity as a writer, if you have other stuff out there for people to read, for people to buy, this is a great way to draw them into it.
Or not out there
a short
yet.
Story that leads in.
Right. And by the way, I wrote a story like you were talking about before in my Tridington Birthright short story cycle. There was one story where I ended it like, here's the climax, here's the end. And whatever editor I sent it to went, no, that's an unsatisfactory ending. You ended with the climax. I'm like, yeah, but story's done. And what I did, I literally added one paragraph to it. I think one line with dialogue and one paragraph. And they went, oh, that's better. Because you just needed to put the bow on it to wrap it up. Okay, now, what kind of commas are there?
There's lots of commas. There's the Oxford comma, which means you have your comma before an and when you have a series of things in your sentence. Okay?
Right.
That's the whole, I had orange juice, toast, and milk for breakfast, where, you didn't have toast with milk on it. You had your milk was separate.
So you could put, I like to make a sandwich out of bread, comma, peanut butter and jelly. You could do that.
Yes, because peanut butter and jelly kind of means, but that kind of also implies you took your peanut butter and you took your jelly, you put them in the bowl, you mix them together, and put them in your sandwich.
Right, which is called goober.
That's how
it's in
I
a
do
jar. But
okay.
So there are,
Right, but there are people who say we do not need the Oxford comma until there's a sentence when, if you don't have that Oxford comma in there, things get a little bit hard to. It's a little bit too vague.
Right.
Other commas, because Andrea specifically asked, when you have a additional thought to your paragraph or to your sentence, i.e. a clause or a subclause, whatever you want to call them. I went to high school in Canada. We used a completely different terminology than what my child learned in middle school down here. And then what I use at work in technical editing, they use a completely different terminology for stuff. So whatever. Compound adverbs, unit modifier, guess what? They're the same thing. But there are times when you put a comma in, and it's a little bit of an art form, because there's always a reason to break the rules. And I apologize. I think I'm using the light from the window. I got a little bit shadowy, and then some glare.
You're okay. Going about comments, we're fascinated.
So, one of the things that a place where you usually need a comma, when you use the word which, usually 95 to 99% of the time, you're introducing a clause. All right, so you've got your main part of your sentence, and it's done. You could put you could end your sentence there, but you're describing something, or you're giving a little bit of extra information about that main theme in the sentence. So you put a comma, and you go, which da 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 da, which was her favorite ice cream. All right, she had a gallon of Rocky Road for breakfast, comma,
Hell
which was her favorite ice cream. That's what I'm talking about. So that's a very important comma, because otherwise you have what's a run-on sentence. In other words, if you are reading your sentence out loud and you run out of breath, you probably need a couple of commas in there. Just saying.
Now,
I'm
we've got about 30 seconds before we go. Well, a lot of us are. That's why a good editor is invaluable.
Commas are hard, people.
Well, they are. And then when you get into, the dashes and semicolons.
That's why we have Tara.
Yes.
It is. It is. And this is why it's invaluable to
She's a professional.
Pay an editor. And I had one author, and I quote this story often, who says, if you only have money to buy a good cover or pay for an editor, buy the cover. And what I'll tell you is, no, go to work for an extra month and pay for both. Because that cover will pick up that book, but that editor will make them pick up your next
Keep
book.
them reading it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's true too. It'll keep them reading the damn book, but it'll also make them buy the
There's
next
been
book.
books where the editing is so bad, I'm like, nope, I'm done.
I have been 6 pages in and went, oh, and put the book down. And actually at certain points contacted the editor going, did you do this? Anyhow, let's go into a break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Hang out. We'll be back. I think I said that. Mute yourselves, guys.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
And now, for the continuing adventures of the Bus Wanker.
What are we doing? Okay, so who's doing the opening line and the rest join in?
We're getting toasted at Talk of the Tavern.
Elizabeth from New York, and I'm getting toasted at Talk of the Tavern. Woo, baby! Forget the train. I gotta get home so I can get toasted on Talk of the Tavern. You're not gonna get the LOL. I'm telling you right now, you're not gonna get it. Keep that to know. I just want to get toasted. Talk of the Tavern. I don't want nobody playing on the train. Come on. I just want to get toasted on Talk of the Tavern. Come on.
I'm pinching his butt.
You got toasted at Talk of the Tavern.
I'm smacking the ass. Smack the ass. Smack the ass. Oh, I smack it. Smack it. And then I wipe.
He's getting toasted for Talk of the Tavern.
Oh my!
We're all together, and guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna get toasted at Talk of the Tavern.
Yeah, baby.
I was hoping we'd do that in unison.
Talk of the Tavern!
I'm getting toasted at Talk of the Tavern. Crap! Another French press broken. Well, what are you going to do? I'll tell you what you're going to do. Stainless steel, baby. And now I'm all ready to get toasted on Talk of the Tavern. Cheers! Look at all the beauty. Just makes me think about getting toasted at Talk of the Tavern. Yeah. Hey, this is Pickle Lady up in New York, and I got toasted on Talk of the Tavern. Cheers! I'm at my school. They're rehearsing, and all I can think about is getting toasted at Talk of the Tavern. Oh! I'm on the train. All by myself. The car's completely empty. I don't know what to do. Oh my God! What's going on?
Oh, looking forward to getting toasted on Talk of the Tavern.
We're getting toasted at
Talk of the Tavern.
Hey, bienvenidos a la Talk of the Tavern. Hey, getting toasted. Yeah.
Okay, and we're back. Well, I'm back. They're coming. They haven't figured it out yet. There goes Tara. She's back with us now. And Andrea's off doing whatever Andrea does when nobody's looking. Kennedy said, I have a couple uses for the comma. That might have to wait till Monday night show because it's adult, and Andrea points out the third hour is soon. And we are in the third hour, which normally we go a little bit more random and a little more off topic, a lot off topic. We drop the damn topic half the time. Look at Andrea. Andrea's looking so chagrined because she's late. But it's okay. We love her anyway.
No.
Were we ever truly on topic today?
No, we went, and I don't actually want to quit the topic because I'm having, I never realize how much of a writing geek I am until I get to talk about writing in a focused moment. And then I am just ecstatic to talk about it, listen, interrupt, shut up, and everything back and forth. I just really enjoy it. And by the way,
well, we all can tell I love talking about editing.
Oh, it's
because it's what I do. I do it all day long for technical stuff, and then I do it for fun.
And I'll tell you, just thank you for being my editor. And if any writer out there hasn't felt that way about their editor yet, you have not found the right editor. And I'm not saying, no offense, Tara, there's not a better editor out there than Tara, but Tara, and I've had some great editors that I have loved working with.
She's what you need right now.
Tara rips up my stuff, and it's great when I get, for example, a trio of travelers that I'll be publishing very soon, and she's working on Talent Agency right this moment. When I get it back to see the difference between the different short stories, where I wrote them in my writing history and my growth, to see how the newer ones have so much less work that she had to do on them, it's telling. And it shows you why you need an editor to basically equalize your work. Because if your novel, if you wrote it in a month or you wrote it over 7 years, there is a difference between when you start it and when you end it. And that editor is the great equalizer that balances that piece of work. So somebody's not getting... You ever read Dragon Riders of Pern?
Yes.
Or Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire and then Vampire Lestat following it. Either series.
Pern, yes.
Okay, with Vampire Chronicles, great books, but you have to read the one she wrote first. And the same with Dragon Riders, because there's this gap between book 1 and book 2, and the writing style grew. It is so much better in book 2 that if you tried to read book 1 out of order, you're not going to get through it because it's horrible compared to book 2.
And I'm going to bring a more J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series.
Really, for you?
If you've read them, you read now. I'm going to slam the editors of the first 2 as well.
Okay, go ahead.
Because they over-edited.
Did they?
They took her, and of course she was, hey, she finally got an editor. They were going to publish her stuff. She was not going to fight for characters. And reading articles afterwards, because I do love that series. But the first 2, they edited down to children's books.
They did, absolutely, and they increased the font size.
Yes,
and you can
but
see the complexity.
They edited whole chapters out. They told J.K. Rowling that she had to choose between Neville and Dean, and I don't know,
I don't even remember Dean.
Right. Exactly.
Besides Supernatural, which I know you love.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay.
Wow, different story, totally.
Different. Yeah, and I am like losing sun here. I'm about to.
Do you want to
Let me
draw
turn
a
on the light.
blind or
Hold
piece
on.
of
I'm
cardboard?
sorry.
You're okay. Yeah, welcome to the
That's
world of
At
live
crazy.
least there's less
broadcasting.
glare. I think that's probably a little bit better. I'm
You're good.
sorry.
You're okay.
But there's
Now
one
you're not blinded.
not like in the dark either. So we don't know anything about Dean, and we were supposed to learn a whole lot more about Dean.
Who's Dean?
Dean is one of the minor characters in the book as it is now, because once she got to book 3 and she's like, hold on a minute, you want to publish again? I've got some power now because I've made you money,
Right.
and I can go ahead and take this book somewhere else and make and they know that it'll make money.
Right.
And she basically said, you're not, and they edited less, and it was a deeper book. One might say a little bit more violent, but it was definitely not a kid's book.
By the way, I definitely want you to continue on with this exact thought. But I will say, this works against some writers, and I'm looking at George R.R. Martin in particular. By book 5 of Ice and Fire, oh my God, he needed an editor, because when you have multiple pages on a storeroom with what's in it, we don't care. And an editor needed to step in and go, dude.
Yeah.
But go on. With this one, it worked the opposite way.
Yeah, I have an opinion about him too.
You can give it. You can give it.
But what was happening is they were taking her story down to making it word count and content, etc., to more of a children's book, a middle grade book, which it was never into. She wasn't necessarily writing a children's book.
But it worked because I felt like the complexity of the book grew with the age of the character.
Yes, but what they wanted is they wanted to edit out of that third novel.
We don't say fuck on this show. God damn it.
Well, yeah, I got people listening in the other room, and sometimes my husband goes, "You swear?" Yeah.
You're welcome.
You weren't military.
Yeah. And he knows. He's just not. It still sometimes shocks him that now that the kid's 21 and I swear in front of them.
Yeah.
He's like, because when they were younger, it was like, you can't say that in front of them.
See, I went the other direction with, hey, here's some words you're not allowed to use because society doesn't accept it when a kid says it. Shh. Here, let me teach you how to use them.
Yeah. Well, eventually that happened. So, but editing is, like you said, sometimes it's an art, and I guess what I was trying to get at with that is that the editor has to work with the writer.
Yes.
And you have to have the same vision for your work. And in J.K. Rowling's case, in the beginning, her editor's publishing company did not have the same vision for her novels as she did. She did not intend them to be children's books. She intended them for an older audience. And yeah, he's 11-year-olds in book 1, which is, again, what I got caught in with a particular editor looking at my Downfire Heritage and saying, well, you've got a 12-year-old in your prologue and you've got a child's voice there and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, he is a child in the prologue.
See, that was my problem.
I'm not changing that. It's not it's not the YA character reflecting back on what happened. I was putting the audience, the reader, in that time with him.
See, I had an editor
that afterthought
that grabbed one of my stories, and matter of fact, let me try to think which story it is. It's the very first one of the Tridington Birthright, where their uncle is pretty much the primary character and their secondary characters, the twins. Mm-hmm. I originally wrote that with a very, very Victorian language, pacing, feel, and style. And the editor that got a hold of that went, oh, no. And essentially, it boils down to, they said, dumb it down. And I went, oh, no, I wrote this because... And by the way, they were right, because modern readers, they don't want to read Poe, they don't want to read Lovecraft, they don't want to read Bram Stoker. H.G. Wells was ahead of his time in his writing style. He had a more modern writing style. But they were right. And I have changed it enough that it flows well modernly, and because originally I wouldn't use contractions very often, only in very specific characters and very specific instances.
Yeah.
And now if you read something without contractions, it pulls you out of the story.
Yes.
And even though you're writing from something 150 years ago, it doesn't matter, put contractions in, because your reader is going to be jerked out of the story because it doesn't flow right.
And something to think about is there are Victorian terms that you can put into your writing that will give the feel, bring the reader into that Victorian feel, because that's what I do with Vampire. It's written in 1909, I think. So
I did review that for you, right?
I think you did.
Oh, good.
I think you read it for me.
I read it, but I want to make sure I reviewed it.
I'm not sure.
Well, one of us will have to check.
But one of the things, it's written technically Edwardian, but it gets pushed back into the Victorian because Edwardian period was only 10 years. You want the modern reading because you're writing for a modern reader, but you want them to have the feel of that Victorian. So there are word choices that you can use that doesn't slow down the reading. So you're still using contractions, because guess what? In Victorian times, they still said can't. They still said ain't.
Right.
Okay? They still spoke with contractions, but the publishing industry at that time...
But it designated a lower class.
Normal. I'm pretty sure even the lords and ladies used...
I'm pretty
but
sure
when
they
did, wrote, when they wrote, it was very different. They had a very formal style of writing.
Now, where I figure I used it effectively is in Harbinger, the one character, the Rocairn, the dwarf, if you will.
Yeah.
He never uses contractions.
Correct.
He always speaks, because the human tongue is his second language, so he learned it proper. And also, he's a very organized, very block Tetris type guy, so it works for him, and it also contrasts, in my opinion. By the way, as my editor, please feel free to go, no, it doesn't. But swooning, gotta have a good swoon. Victorian, thank you, Kennedy. And Kennedy also says Cormac McCarthy has interesting punctuation, minimalist. I don't know who that is, to be honest with you. Do you know Cormac McCarthy?
The name is familiar, but I don't think I've read.
Sorry, Kennedy, we're beyond you, or you're beyond us on that one. But we believe you.
But yes, there's.
Yeah, Harry Potter, you're going on.
I think I made the point of Harry Potter. I have another little. I checked my phone during the 5-minute break, and so something that came through my email. I kind of want to share as a reason why editing and proofreading, which are two different things.
Very different things.
Okay, I'm not a proofreader. Do not ask me to proof anything.
Andrew is a great proofreader, but she's a horrible editor. Well, she's not a horrible editor. You're a decent editor. Okay, sorry, go on.
So, but if you ask me to proofread something, which people have done that and said, just proof it. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to edit because I'm an editor. Because you're looking at things very differently.
Yeah, editors are proofreaders to the third power, not the second power, third power.
Right, but proofreading can be very, very important, especially if you're not good at spelling and you're not good at, your editor might not catch all of that because they're looking for other things.
Right.
So just to put that out there. But I got an email. Yeah, I'm looking for a house in the Northern Virginia area. So I'm following, I've got things, I get feeds in from Zillow, from Trulia, etc. So I just got this email in for a house in Stafford that it says in the thing fits your filters and search and whatever for $2,395,000. I'm like, there is no freaking way.
Oh, you're gonna pay cash, right?
So normally I'm like, I would just swipe. Well, it's on my phone, so I actually tapped it to open it by just swiping to delete it. And so in the email, there's a typo. It's only $239,000. So this is why
Huge
editing
fucking
can be
typo.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons that editing and proofreading can be very important.
I got a story.
Somebody might want to buy that house, but they're just going to take $2 million. I can't. And there you go.
Here's a story. I worked for a newspaper last year, local newspaper, small country newspaper, and I did a story on food pantries. And I stopped writing titles because the editor usually changed them anyway, and it was one less thing I had to do. And Tara knows this story because she's seen the video on YouTube. There it is right there. There was the title that the editor wrote for food pantries, wrote Food Panty Heroes. And I did this great video. I love the video because Andrea's in the next room. Andrea, this is before she wanted to be in my videos. And every time I said Food Panty Heroes, she did this 1970s heroic
Panty Heroes.
There you go. And it was by the way, apparently Cormac McCarthy, I love their writing and just didn't know it. They wrote The Road and No Country for Old Men. Now I have not read either one of those, but I have seen The Road, and oh my God, what an incredible movie. Never wanted to What's that?
I had to read that for school.
I've never read it, but that movie, I loved it, but I never want to see it again. I will watch it again if Andrea hasn't seen it. But what an intense... I don't know who the director was. I don't know how close they stayed to the book, but God, what a great movie. And No Country for Old Men, I think I've seen it, don't remember it at all. So there we go. It's so apparently I like their stuff. But yeah, editors matter. Pay for an editor. If you don't pay for an editor, then you make sure you buy them a beer or a gift basket or thank them profusely or credit them out your ass, because they will make your work better.
Not out your ass. That's shitty.
Now, speaking of editing, Andrea figured out her shirt might need to be worn in a different way. This is shirt editing. Is Elizabeth calling you? Do you want to pick it up?
I'll be back.
Okay, you can put her right on air. This is Elizabeth from our Monday night shows. I'm hoping to get her in for a... I want to do a game with Andrea hitting 50 followers plus on her Twitch channel. She is now eligible for affiliate, but she needs to average a minimum of 3 viewers per episode over the past 30 days. So basically she has, 10 this day. She could have 2 that day. It balances out to 5. We're okay. But we have found playing Lego Dimensions doesn't really bring the people in. Playing tabletop role-playing games does bring people in. So I'm thinking let's get some tabletop role-playing games going for her channel and get her to affiliate status.
I missed that. What?
We were totally talking about...
Plug in your
exactly.
Did you hear the ring?
Not clearly.
Go
It's
ahead.
her yelling, don't tell me what to do.
We were standing at the Fredericksburg train station, and she screamed this. And I got a video of it, which I then turned into a sound clip, and now Andrea has turned into her ringtone.
Whatever she calls me, which is hilarious. Oh, you were talking about the game? Or what?
Did you ask Elizabeth if she could play tonight?
Well, I sent her a message, and then she called me, and I'm like, oh, we're live. Oh, yeah.
I could bring her in, but I've got to go back to the old format without our little overlays, because I haven't set up a 4-person one yet.
Well, you could figure that one out.
I would. I could adjust it all while we're on air. I don't care. Here's what I'll tell you about the anthology, the fairy anthology. If you're watching for that reason, come up with something. We're not putting limits on it. We're discouraging boxes. We're discouraging limits and all that stuff. And by the way, Jewel, if you're still hanging out and listening to us, tell Jamin we said hello. We do miss him. And if you're both listening on the same thing at the same time, that we're glad to have you both around. We have also realized we have not seen Ian in a little bit. We'd love to see him come back. And I think I might put that directly in the newsletter and just label it missing persons. and say we need our couple of regulars who haven't been around in a few weeks to pop back in. Because basically the viewers are the reason we do the show. We could talk to each other all day long without an issue. But anyhow. Oh. What's next? Did we finish on Harry Potter? Did we finish on editing? So Tara, what are you up to? What are you doing? It's you're moving, you're juggling responsibility.
Moving yet?
You're buying this $2 million house.
No.
So are you looking at moving to like Fredericksburg to Stafford area? Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, that's. It kind of depends because you guys know that I'm working up there during the week. David and Mo are still in Norfolk.
No, I'm going to be blunt. Mo can move without an issue, right?
Not really.
Mo has
They
other.
just got accepted back to ODU for a master's degree in engineering and modeling and simulation.
No.
So they're kind of stuck in Norfolk until 2020, which is why David's like, well, in that case, then I'll just take some more time to fix the house in Norfolk. And I'm like, okay. So we're,
Do you have veto
waiting
power
again.
on that one?
Just sell it as the handyman special.
Yeah, by the way.
I'd like to say that I would, but I mean, he's the one doing it.
Oh, so you don't have to
I
work.
could
It's
say-
okay.
So, I mean, it's the amount of work that we have to do on the house in Norfolk. I think this actually just took a little pressure off of him from feeling that he has to get it done all right now.
Gotcha.
So everyone else knows the reason. It's been 3.5 years since I took the job up in Northern Virginia, but my mother was very ill, and
Like
she's
right
recently
when we
passed. So, our decision for a long time was for because my mother was living with us, to keep her with her. She had dementia, in the house that she knew. So when she passed, David was like, okay, hey, let's get this done, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, we really don't have to go that fast, but I wasn't expecting till 2020.
Right.
I mean, at that point, I'm looking at a 2026 retiring from this job that I'm in. And I'm like, I don't know that I want to be in Northern Virginia as a retiree. So, but yeah, we're looking, I would really like the Fredericksburg area. I have friends in Fredericksburg.
You get on Route 3 and go west on Route 3, so you're 7 miles away from 95. Prices drop, especially if you're looking at foreclosures or what is the quick sale thing called? There's a real estate term for it.
I have no idea.
I do.
A short sale is
short
not
sale.
quick. It's not quick.
It was for me. I bought one in like less than a month. Bang, done.
Oh,
but I pay cash.
They can take a lot of time. That makes a difference.
Right.
It's called foreclosure. Yeah, right.
Well, short sale is basically we don't want to get to foreclosure. We want to. Oh no, Jamin fell yesterday, and I'm taking the day off work to care for him. Hey, all our love to Jamin, and hopefully he gets better quickly. Cause, yeah.
Does he have his service dinosaur with him?
It's and you didn't push him, did you? Was he being like stupid, and you went, "Shut up," knocked him over? Okay, because we have love, but we have inappropriate responses too. Just ask Tara what we sent for a condolence card.
Yeah, my husband saw that and says, "Who the heck is?" I go, and before I could say who it was, I goes, "Oh, that was from Andy and Travis, isn't it?" I go, "Yeah." They in a condolence for my mother's passing, they sent a card that was basically the pregnancy test. So then when you open it up in Andrea's lovely handwriting, it was, well, at least it's not that, and that is true since
we're horrible
my junk
people.
Don't work no more, but
we're horrible people.
I thought it was funny and it was great. And,
good.
My husband was just like, wait a minute, who the heck? And then once he knew who sent it, it all was cool. But it was like, who the heck sent that?
We're so glad we have the friends we do. Well, there's a reason we have the friends we do.
That's true.
There's the reason why we only have a few friends that we do.
It's in horrible moments. I have always found humor to be less destructive, but yeah, you definitely need people that aren't status quo to appreciate our horribleness. So that's that. Jamin sends me postcards, which are pretty much memes printed out on photo paper and a stamp
They
put
are
on.
hilarious.
We appreciate them. It's I have a postcard right here, which Tara, I know you've never really played tabletop role-playing games, but this has a bunch of dolls.
For 38 years.
There you go. It has a bunch of dolls on it, and it says therapy bills. Role-playing reduces therapy bills. And I grabbed a bunch of these from IKEA. They're from IKEA, and yeah, my thought was, hey, I should send these out to my gamer friends. They get it.
Everybody knows what a damn it doll is, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Damn it.
So I work for the Marine Corps. I served in the Navy. And the secretary where I currently work at one point was having a lot of difficulty between our deputy, who also served in the Navy, and our colonel. And I was at a craft fair, and somebody was selling these damn it dolls. And one had the Marine Corps print, and they had an Air Force print and an Army print too, but they had the Navy print and they had the Marine Corps print. So I bought one of each for the secretary. And when I explained to the craft lady what I was buying them for, and she says, oh, wait a minute, I have something else for you. So it was at my church. So she sent it with her friend the next day, who actually attended church, because of course the craft fair was on Saturday and then church on Sunday. And she sent this little pin box with big ass hat pins in it. And she, with the little note, these are for the dolls for your secretary.
Nice.
So I went in on Monday to a secretary who has since retired, not because of these damn it dolls, but probably because of the deputy and the colonel at the time. But so I took them in and gifted them to her, and she had those on her desk with those voodoo doll pins next to them. Very, very luckily that the colonel and the deputy had a good sense of humor, because neither one of us got in trouble. I did make sure that they knew I gave them to her, because I figured, I didn't want her to bear the brunt of it. It was just. And when she retired, she actually gave them to the deputy, and he has them on his desk with those hat
Oh, that's great.
sitting there. So there's.
I am sure there is more than one pinhole in those dolls.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure on the deputy's desk right now, the colonel one gets stuck a lot. Probably has holes all over, and the Navy one is probably pretty pristine at this point.
I think this falls into the don't ask, don't tell category, right?
Probably. Sorry, there's like really.
I see the dots are hitting your face.
Yeah,
I'm amused
so
by it.
I'm trying to make it better, and I think I'm just making it worse.
As long as you're happy, we're fine. And
I was getting a little distracted by it myself. So.
And if you sit back where it's not in your face, you're still perfectly on camera, so you're okay.
Okay.
There we go. Yes, your well-lit portion is outside of the screen range. You're okay.
Okay. So.
As long as you're comfortable. So let's see here.
So if anybody wants to write a story for this anthology about damn it dolls coming to life and maybe getting revenge on the person that's been sticking them or banging them, with the whole damn it thing, yeah, that's a shoe-in.
There you go. There you go. Jewel, tell Jamin. It's And welcome to the new folks who have joined us. Feel free to chime in and chat. We're all about that. And all that good stuff. It's I am really curious what they're doing across the street. We have, where we live, they've started clearing out an area. And originally we went, oh, we don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're just clearing an area of trees for, because a lot of these areas, they just have trees. They come in every so many years, cut them all down, and send them off to the wood factory or whatever. I'm hoping that they put a neighborhood in there or a through road and bring cable internet and FiOS to our world.
Oh, that would be wonderful. It would be so wonderful.
Widen the road. Widen the road. I've been to your house. Widen the road. Widen the road.
Yeah, yeah. When you're passing somebody that's not in a compact vehicle, you're like, am I gonna
scary.
feel
It's like,
You kind of hope that they hit their side of the road,
Yeah.
such as it is.
Yeah. It's and Kennedy says a few things I used to bang have taken revenge on me. Yeah, hopefully you have your earbuds in if we're going to comment on that one, considering I think you're at the beach with family. Because you may have yet another revenge coming. Kennedy has recently gone through the not so uncommon life tragedy of divorce is going to happen. So, yeah. And by the way, Kennedy, we're one of those people, we understand there's two sides to every story, which I like how you haven't necessarily... He hasn't slammed anybody. He hasn't...
No bad mouthing,
yeah.
just this is what's going to happen.
And
that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, amongst your closest friends, absolutely rant and rave. But in public...
But not on the internet, because it might bite you in the ass.
Tara's got a spotlight.
I'm just... Yeah, I'm
Worst
like...
spotlight ever.
It's driving me nuts a little bit, and I know I'm trying to...
You have a cardboard box you can put up in the window?
I tried. It's just not working.
It didn't work out. Okay.
I can't...
She's glowing on this side.
Yes. Good thing that's my good side, you know.
Do you have a good, is it a good side? I mean, I've never thought I've had a good side.
All of it's the good side.
No, this is... I have better cheekbone on this side.
Do you really? Oh.
And less of this thing on the side.
You know, that's, I guess...
And I think I have
smile lines because you're happy.
So...
I did a whole video on smile lines and smile wrinkles, saying I would rather have that than the grumpy ones, or no expression at all, because of the character it adds to us.
I think the cowlick, you know, I've got this cowlick here that just, you can see the face on this side, where you got this side, and it's like the hair can overhang. Oh wow, you can almost tell it's purple there.
Oh yeah. Kennedy says, I'm with wife and kids, actually more comfortable than it was before the divorce announcement. Good to hear, man.
Good.
Like I said on a previous show, being happier apart is better than being miserable together. It's just a truth. No matter what age your kids are, you're going to, and your other half will be better people for it, and thus you could be better for your kids and everybody around you, and yourself. Most importantly, yourself. It's doesn't mean it's not tough, doesn't mean it doesn't suck, doesn't mean you don't have moments of boo-hoo. But it is what it is. Oh, last half hour. Totally random now. I think we've really covered the Fae Thee Well. By the way, I hope you didn't mind I changed the name to add thee instead of thee.
Yeah, because that's how it was supposed to be. Like I said, sometimes I need my own editor.
There we go. And I capitalized it properly.
Yep.
Like a title. Which is something the newspaper I worked for didn't do. They didn't capitalize headlines. And they're like, well, that's the industry standard. And I went and looked at like New York Times. I'm like, no, it's not.
It depends on what standard they're going by too. This is something that I'm going back to editing. Because I've edited different things. I've edited dissertations and theses. I've edited articles for scientific journals. I've edited fiction, and I've edited technical reports and some PR stuff. And each of those have a different standard. So, and unfortunately, that sometimes causes some confusion for people when they're writing. I've had people where I'm trying to edit an article. Some of the gentlemen that I work with for the DoD agency that I work for. Oh, that glare is coming in really bad. Halo. To get them to understand that there is the magazine, the journal that they're submitting to has standards. They have submission guidelines. Can you get them for me?
Can you take your laptop and just like turn with your back to the light? Maybe that'll help you.
Let me see. if I can do
And
that.
you're fine to us, just so you don't have the glare in your
She
face.
just seems like.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is
Now,
that better? Because now I've
Is
got
that better for
blinds.
you?
now pull your blinds.
So,
Don't look at the light.
because I think I was also squinting in the light as well.
And make sure you point them
Probably-
upward instead of downward.
Yeah, hold on. That means I gotta stand up.
By the way, I'll read a few comments from Kennedy. Chicago Manual of Style versus AMA, etc.
Yep.
Read about the New York Times whiskey versus whiskey incident with Eric Asimoff, which that's whiskey with an E and without. And John says, I hated the tech report, or I hated tech reports. There you go, see that?
Are you better?
Well, there's not as much glare other than that little bit on my. Yeah, well, it's better than it was.
It's just rough, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm trying not to be distracted by it. I'm trying to do the thing where I actually look at the camera instead of you guys and.
Tara's gonna turn
about
into our cat and
25%
start
of the time.
attacking the dot.
Well, one of my cats might. Well, they're not around, so. But yeah, there's different. But even a magazine or a journal, they may say, "Hey, the general APA standard," but then they may have some very specific.
Bring Elizabeth in.
I'm gonna add Elizabeth here real quick. Hold on a second while
I didn't want to interrupt your
You keep
thought.
talking.
It's okay.
She'll probably come in loud anyway.
She might interrupt your thought.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to go back to this format here. Oh my goodness. I don't have it set up for 4 people. Oh, good times.
Yeah, anyway.
Let's see if I can
Oh,
change things.
she's just like her character.
Superhero.
God bless America. Happy Independence Day, everyone. Down with the Redcoats.
That is fabulous.
Fabulous. God bless America. You're right, Travis. Oh,
Yeah, I'm just adjusting the screen real quick. I made some modifications, but
Yeah.
I don't have it set up for
Oh, I was not expecting that.
4 people total, so I'm working it through. Keep going, keep
I
going.
was invited. I was invited. I'm not intruding, I hope.
No, it was worth bringing you
Well,
in.
he said-
Absolutely.
See if you wanted to come in after you called.
Who is this lovely person I haven't met yet?
You haven't met Tara? You met Tara at
I can't
MarsCon.
see her.
Yeah, I know. I'm having.
She had like
trouble
sun.
There
I
she's
had
beautiful.
horrible glare, and we were trying to adjust to fix it, and it didn't
All right.
work.
Yeah, I gotta do that too. Hang on. Oh, you look beautiful. Right on. Happy 4th of July. Down with the Redcoats.
And by the way, Skipper says, this is Jewel on Jamin's channel. My tablet died. Dino was inside while Jamin was taking the mail out. Luckily, I have Haman, tagged like a wild animal with a call pendant. Oh, Jamin, it's just alarm system called me as soon as he was down. I hope he's really doing okay. It's
Gotcha.
we absolutely want that guy to do okay. We like him.
What is that?
That's my, that's the Do Not Tread on Me.
Oh.
Benjamin Franklin, baby. All the way.
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. I'm not military, but I say hoorah and absolute respect. Absolutely. All right, what are we talking? Let's do this.
We are random. We finished talking about now, Elizabeth. I don't know if I can pimp this to you, but Tara is working on a fairy anthology for next year's MarsCon.
Oh, Tara, how bold of you! What a challenge.
So
She headed up the one for the werewolf one this past year at MarsCon, the werewolf anthology.
Dan,
Oh, I thought that.
Yeah, we're trying to
See?
do it right time. So
Are you accepting writings for
Yes.
this? Oh. Is there a minimum or a maximum or?
originally there was, but now, not really.
as more people
I've
have
had a
come in,
couple
it's
of
easier
short-
to ease up on the shorter stories.
What would you prefer? I mean, I know it's a short story, but I'll throw something together. What would you prefer?
5K, give or take.
Yeah.
What was that? Say that again.
5,000 words, give or take. But again, I've accepted a 1,500 word short story that was phenomenal. So it's definitely quality over quantity. So if you are writing something and maybe you're aiming at 5,000 words and you only get 2,500, but you're done and it's the bomb, I'm not going to complain and say you got to bump it up. Because sometimes, when the story's done, you're done,
Yeah. I generally write screenplays, so I 500 words a page, okay? Let me see if I can come up with something, and I'll send it your way. The worst you can say is no.
You have until August 11th, and I'll add you to the group, the Facebook group, and I think it'd be great if you did a whole story on Pickle Man encountering Fae beings.
That would be fairies about.
He Fae? I mean, he could be. Maybe he finds his parentage, or.
Yeah.
Is there a rating? Because I'm a filmmaker. I'm always asking rating.
TV 14.
14. Got it.
Yeah.
So you can have sex or violence, just don't make it graphic.
I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to put it in the back burner. I'm writing like crazy right now, so I might write something completely out of the genre of Pickle Man. So we'll see.
Yeah. And write how you write it, and if you think it's a little bit more than what I'm asking for, if it goes a little bit too far, submit it. Let me know that you think so, and then I'll if it needs to be adjusted, we'll adjust it. If not, then we won't. So
how many pages is 5,000 words?
You're looking with double space
20 to 25.
Yeah, about 250 words per page when double space.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I
single
appreciate
space.
the confidence.
John
a lot
says,
of words.
Graphic is my department. No, you can do it. We have faith in you.
Do you take drawings as well, or just words?
Yes, we've just opened up to where we're going to be taking line drawings for the inside, black and white.
Did you take line drawings for the story? Oh.
Do you need her to define what she means?
Well, I work in visual and verbal medium, and, I would be intrigued to do something, not quite graphic novel, but maybe somewhere in between.
Do it, give it to me, and,
Cool.
yeah.
Black and white,
because we have somebody else who was more used to doing comic book script, vice writing a short story. So, hey, if you want to submit something that's more script-like, because this is also somebody who is more used to doing, with drawings and stuff, and you've got some drawings that go with it and makes it work. If I have more than one, to balance things out, I'm open to.
We could create a whole new art form. But when I send you something, I hope if I'll make it completely printable. Like you don't have to do anything with it; it's just ready to go. There you go. So judge it, print it, or not.
Okay.
Cool. All right. In my spare time.
Yeah.
And just so everybody, just for a little bit of clarification, when we do this, everybody is also going to get a full page at the end for their bio. You can write a whole full page bio if you want, or you got other stuff going on. You want to give me a line art for advertising, so it's your page. You got a bio, you want to put websites, you want to put your Patreon up there, you want to give me a, black and white advertising for your stuff, especially if you're someone who usually does more graphic stuff. You're going to get a page at the end that is yours and totally yours to advertise your stuff. So it'll be, like I said, towards the back of the book, its own little section. Everybody gets a page. Basically, however, it does have to be black and white, so it's got to be black and white line art, black and white advertising type stuff. But you got a page at the back to pimp your stuff. So,
all right, I'll take it. I'll tell you, that sounds fabulous. I'll start thinking about it right now.
Elizabeth, if you're going to give me something that's print, what you send, Dreampunk Press uses Open Dyslexic font for all of our novels and stuff. It's free and downloadable. So if you're going to give me like the pictures and the words together, that is the preferred font, or Comic Sans. Because
Dreampunk Press?
Yes. That is my publishing company.
Well done. Or Comic Sans.
Yeah. But Open Dyslexic font or Comic Sans, yeah. So Comic Sans, the reason I say that, one, it's used for a lot of, comics and graphic novels and stuff. And one of the reasons it became very popular for those who have dyslexia. The letters are actually weighted in Comic Sans, and a lot of dyslexics said, hey, we can read Comic Sans a lot easier than we can read Times New Roman or Arial or Courier New. And when researchers got a little bit more involved, they realized it was because there was weighting in those, because they were kind of drawn like with a pen. And when you do, there are places where you are more lightly touch the page, and then where you would press down, and so it would be thicker. And so then some folks went ahead and developed Open Dyslexic font, which uses the same type of weighting, so folks with dyslexia have a little bit of easier with a certain type of dyslexia, which is the ones, there's different forms, but if it's one where the words tend to move on the page, it helps weight and anchor the letters to the page. So that's why we use that font. But I'm just letting you know, if you're going to give me something print ready that I can't change the font, if you could use one of those two. But but that would be that's my reasoning for that request.
Okay, I generally just hand draw everything.
Okay.
So.
If you're going to hand draw, then there's probably going to be some inherent weighting in your printing anyway. So.
All right. Wow. I see. You learn something every day. I had no idea about that. Yeah. I am dyslexic, and here I am.
Oh wow.
You know what? Maybe we could send her over a file of the previous book so we can get a direct opinion on how's that working out.
I have
the
previous book. I bought it at MarsCon.
And have you flipped through it? Have you taken a look?
A little bit, but I haven't read it. But I will read it. Actually, I'm in a beer drinking mood, so I'll read it tonight.
Yo. Some werewolf stories for you. Unless you're going to turn the game
either tonight. With the real. We have a game.
No, but we want to.
Well, here's the thing.
I'm going to be fireball. I'm going to be fireballed.
That's great. And you could wear that, because what I'm thinking, since everyone else is out doing their thing, you and I can do the Marvel superhero to play some stuff, and we could be at your kid's soccer game.
That would be that would be fabulous. All right. That's cool.
That won't be till 8 o'clock, so.
Well, I'll do what I can. I can't promise I'll have something written up for the MarsCon thing, but
okay.
You know what? It'll give me a break from a horrible horror screenplay I'm writing, so I'll give it a shot.
Hey, even if you get something in it, we're not talking. If it's 6 pages and it's like some horrible fake joke,
you got it.
14. Yeah. Hey, that would be, that nice little commercial break in the middle of the novel of the anthology to lighten the mood and just.
Yeah, I might just play around with you're a fairy when, and so I'd like to add to MarsCon. MarsCon is really a neat thing, and I think I'd like to add to it in a different way this time. So, cheers. Thanks for doing it. I can't imagine the amount of work it takes to put all of this together, the anthology and the book.
Cats.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why Travis graciously decided to help me herd cats, because I was having some issues with it, so he stepped in and kicked my butt and said, "Hey, do you want some help?"
Yeah,
he said, "I'm not letting you say no," and so which is good because I needed it.
Well, he practices herding cats every day because we have a few.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. I wish we had a cat cam. I wish.
That'll be tonight.
Oh yeah, well, Pussy's on patrol.
All the cats. You have no cats in there, Travis. Harry was on the shelf licking his balls earlier, and then switched to the other side.
I miss all the good things. I did finally see. I paid $6. They raised all the rates on Amazon. I saw Black Panther.
Oh,
finally.
What do you think?
It's okay. Yeah, I think it's a little overrated, but I did enjoy the morality. I like the questioning and how, accepting of people and leaving someone behind is wrong. I like that. And I enjoyed the car chases are fabulous. Yeah. And I thought it was amusing that the American black guy was the bad guy. There you go. It was fine. It was fine. I think it was so built up for me. I went in expecting, Othello.
Right.
But I had a good time. I enjoyed it. It was good. It's a matinee. And I love Black Panther. And let me just say that he was one of my favorite superheroes as a kid because he was a cat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the women warriors are badasses.
Oh my gosh, yes.
They are.
And she didn't like the wig. She's like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
I believe that is the actress that plays on Walking Dead.
Yes.
Oh, Michelle?
Yes.
Yeah, she's Michonne on
Michonne. No, she's a
Michonne, which means mean, on Walking Dead. The one with the machete.
Yeah.
She wears a wig there too.
Good actress.
She is. She is, definitely. And I have adjusted, so we now have a...
It looks good.
You think it's okay? It's
a start. It's a start for now. I mean, I can work up some other overlay graphics for you. Yours looks good. I think maybe a different shape for the rest of them. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, we'll work it out. Elizabeth, just so you know what we're talking about, is Andrea's went and created overlays, as I think you already knew about. But with
for the Twitch channel.
Yeah, for the Twitch channel, and she has created the Talk of the Tavern logo, but hollowed out where each of your pictures appear in it. And while you guys were talking, I was adjusting it because I didn't have 4 of us on earlier to create one. So I've done it while we're on air right now.
Oh, I got to get on Twitch. Here we go.
So you can check it out, and it's a little off-centered. I need to adjust that a little
Just
bit.
like the people.
No, really, yes, you kind of hit the nail on the head there, didn't you?
But
that's a little better.
There we go.
A little better.
I'm texting you a picture of it so you can see it. But I think it's good. It's a good start. I'm learning.
Cool.
But I have one for the Marvel channel, and it's all color.
But yeah, maybe we'll play some Marvel tonight.
That's what you want to play.
Yeah.
Well, you want to show off your art.
Well, and I have 89 followers now.
Wow.
And she just needs to hit an average of 3 viewers per over the last 30 days. So by broadcasting more, and the tabletop gaming brings in more viewers than the Lego Dimensions. So we're looking at maybe doing more tabletop.
And Wednesday's the big day, usually. So today's Wednesday.
I watch whenever you're on. I just turn it on and I click in and then I turn on mute so I can write. But I have enough.
You comment once in a while. I don't know.
I do. I share and care.
We appreciate it. Now we are wrapping up here in the last couple minutes. Now tomorrow we have Greg Chapman and his new bride, Flick, who will be joining us. He just confirmed in the middle of the show, so I let him know.
Okay.
Monday we're doing Handheld Movie Studio, where Elizabeth is going to teach us how to make movies on our phones. Unless she's like, no, I'm not. Then I'm going to switch it to something else because of that look on her face.
No,
right now.
I can do this in my sleep. Let's rock. Let's do it.
Yeah, you can do this all the time.
You've
treat
taught
us like
enough
the
third
kids.
graders how to do this. It's time to teach the adults who behave like third graders. And then also, I think it's the middle of next week. Is it the 11th or the 12th? We have the Geeky Educators episode.
The 11th.
The 11th.
The 11th.
So
that's a Wednesday, I believe.
Yeah, and tomorrow morning I go to the new job, find out my schedule. So at that point in time, I will start bringing more guests in for Talk of the Tavern. But I want to know my schedule before I start going willy-nilly with guest invitations.
Yeah.
So when we get Mr. T on, you'll actually be here.
Yes, and not at work going, hey, let me know how Mr. T was.
Hey, I'm committed to reaching out to celebrities for you guys. And if there's a standard kind of intro or statement you want me to start with, let me know. But I was listening to Brad Williams this morning, Andrea, and he's funny.
Right?
He is.
He's delightful. A good friend of mine from college was a midget, and
he's not anymore.
Well, it was a group of us. We'd all go shooting together on the shooting range, and another friend of mine was the range master, and we were just insane. And we kind of all assumed Neil would go first because it's just they tend to die younger. And it was the engineer, Jim, who died first. And he had developed different barrels for rifling just out of fun. And he developed some that increased the length and was just this brilliant guy. And he died, and it shocked all of us. And I actually got in touch with Neil again. It made my day. And he looks a lot like Brad. So I was just giggling like crazy. Thanks for that.
All right.
Tara, do you know who Brad Williams is?
No.
He's a very well-known stand-up comedian, and he's a little person. Okay. He is 4'4", and we had him on the show a couple weeks ago. And
huge character.
Yes.
Huge character.
I billed him as Brad Williams, the biggest personality in comedy. Because it. And then of course.
And if you listen to Pandora Comedy.
Dinner with him. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say, if you listen to Pandora Comedy, you could hear a lot of his stuff because that's where I've found him.
And it's funny because of my attachment to Talk of the Tavern. YouTube keeps sending me his videos. Nothing on waterbeds or cat food.
Not yet. And last week we also had William Kircher, who played Biffer the dwarf in The Hobbit. So we had two dwarves on in 1 month. Of very different types.
And Daniel's a dwarf, so that's 3.
And Kennedy says, I sent a toast vid to you being toasted on Governor's Island. I saw it, haven't watched it yet, but I'll check that out. And then he also says Brad Williams was great. He was, and...
Go on Instagram and Twitter and tell him you saw him on Talk of the Tavern.
Yeah.
He was awesome, and he needs to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Great idea. Or tag him, or whatever. But yeah, let him know you saw him on Talk of the Tavern. He's one of those guys.
He's got a good heart. He's a little smartass, and he just, he'll make you laugh. He's got a lot of sincerity. And
still really intelligent. We had a good conversation about multiple topics on the show, and he rolled with it, played well, and he obviously knew we're a little guy, and he still showed up and still did what he did. And the same for William Kircher. Just a little love for these guys that just...
Yeah, they're my favorite.
Yeah. Very better than this.
You know what? Everyone's a little guy. Everyone's a little guy until you're a big guy, and then sometimes you're a little guy again.
Yeah.
Until it's the fluctuation. So we love those who come on Talk of the Tavern.
Absolutely. And we are about a minute and a half out. I'm going to go find somebody to raid.
Sorry, Tara. I wish I could have hung out longer.
Hey.
Tara, is there anything you want to say as a closing thought to any of this?
Be nice to your editor.
Yeah. They're there to help. They're there to help. And they do help. And if they don't,
being nice
get a different one.
Appreciating them.
God bless the editors.
Yeah.
Is that our toast?
That's right.
I'll do to that.
God bless the editors.
Here's Captain America.
Clinky, clinky. Especially the ones that work for free.
My cup matches you, Elizabeth.
I'm happy to say I do pay Tara, but I do not pay her what she's worth. Yeah, but she's a happy 4th of July there, Kennedy. Hope the rest of your evening goes well, and if you join us for gaming in 2 hours, we'll see you then. You could do videos in front of fireworks for us.
Oh, that'll be fun.
It's let's
I'm
do
gonna
some.
fuck with Tara. I'm gonna do my font, every other letter, different font. Hand drawn.
Let's do a closing here, and we're out of here. Have a good one, guys. Thank you, Tara, for joining us.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
You're the one thing that makes the show what it is. Don't forget to join us at the tavern next week. Until then, have fun, keep learning, and be good to one another. Now, raise your glass in good cheer. Enjoy the small moments every day.
We don't hear the music.
That's because Elizabeth joined.
Or consent.
Did she leave? What the hell? Don't leave! You messed up my whole screen! The fuck? It's just Andrea's boob in a thing by itself. Oh, goodness.
Oh, what the hell?
I don't know. Oh my god, we don't know what to do. Let's stop screaming. We'll see you on the flip side.